It doesn't matter what their business model is. Like if I have this, I can sell this shit for whatever I want to sell it for. You can tell me all the tic-tac facts that you want. You can tell me about your business model. You can tell. The greatest thing about the position I'm in is that I own this. And I can sell it whenever I want to. I can get down on money and be like, I'm gonna go make Future sold catalog from this year to that year. So that means he sold a portion of his catalog. Maybe he seen something for 50 mil that he wanted to invest in. Who knows? But that's the beauty of ownership.
No, I definitely believe leverage and strategy is something that's the whole point of ownership in the first place.
I think in our space, I think it's so unique, and that's why it's so hard to compare it to like Silicon Valley and tech.
But I feel like though they don't want us to make them comparisons, but I feel like it's the same thing. It's a product. Right? And it's a product that sells every day, and the market size is getting bigger and bigger. Streaming is getting bigger, and then you got new tools.
So what you have to do is you have to place value on what you are.
19 keys and some high level conversation. Tap in with the guys. Peace family, is 19 Keys here. I'm here for another high level conversation with a hip hop royalty. This is a young guy who, I believe emanates a certain masculine energy, through his lyricism, through his voice, being an outspoken person in hip hop. I feel like he's a father figure in hip hop. Because a lot of times when I see things happen in the culture, he speaks on them in a way to where I feel like you would get admonished or chastised, or you would get recognized by your father. You understand me? And Royce the 5'9" is also somebody who, when it comes to lyrics, I believe that he is one of the greatest. If there was a list or a Mount Rushmore, you definitely have to put him up there. And also, when I talk about legends, I talk about the consequences of all the things that they've done. That if you take certain people out the algorithm, then how many things would disappear, right? And I think that if you think about a person's legacy in that way, then you can appreciate them more, because then you can see the extension of their life and the energy that they possess. So I wanted to have this conversation with this brother because I know that, he's a tree of wisdom, you understand me, and a library of stories. And of course, we are here in Detroit at the Heaven Studios, about to have a high level conversation with the God.
Peace, Black God.
Man,
thank you for those kind words, man.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for coming through. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to link with you for a minute. I know we've been talking. I'm glad, we finally able to make it happen.
Most definitely.
Hopefully it's, the beginning of many.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take my glasses off early in this one, man. Like one thing that I see, like I said in the intro, that's what you represent for me. You understand me? You have a very interesting character, because in one, you're a very jovial person. Lyrically, when you think about people that are very lyrical, you don't connotate gangsterism to lyrics now, right? It's backpack rap or it's conscious rappers. But it's like anytime when I hear you speak, you like, don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? It's a very matter of fact, you know what I'm saying, course correcting people just in case they get the message wrong. You understand me? So that you're not misunderstood. And that's something I respect, because that's how I grew up. That's what I seen my father, my brother, and the men around me do, right? So it lets me know you got a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
And then, listening to your actual music, you listening to a thinker, right? But at the same time, a creative. I think that being a creative is something that's most of the time, especially for entertainers or just black men, that's not something we always seen as, because the other personas overtake that. But as a creator, you got a certain way that you live, a certain way that you think, a certain way that you go about seeing, feeling, judging, and sensing the world. You understand me? From your words, I want to know, who is Royce the 5'9"? You know what I'm saying? As far as if you had to explain to, someone who didn't know who you was at all, and you want to make sure that they didn't get any misconception of your character.
Well, I mean, that's a very loaded question, and I think no black man, especially not in this medium, should be able to just answer that. Like generally, you can't speak generally about the multiple layers of a person, not just a person, but a black man, a black person in America, especially. Like my perspective has changed so much over the years. You know what I mean? You mentioned like the creative part. I mean, at any given time during my career, what you got at that time is who I, kind of like where I was at the time mentally. So there was a point in time where if you had asked me that question, I'd have told you I'm a self-professed alcoholic lyricist. Then I went through periods of time where even my perspective on what being a lyricist is has changed. Like it was a time where lyricism was everything about me, or at least I thought it was. I think there was a point in time where I even put lyricism ahead of fatherhood. Now family is more important to me than ever, but it doesn't mean that lyricism is any less important to me. It just means that I'm evolving as a person. So it's like the more I go through, the more trial and error, the more mistakes I make, it gives me more wisdom. You know what I mean? So now, 20 plus years in at 45 years old, it's so many things that represent me because I'm finally in a position mentally where I'm comfortable in my own skin. Like I can honestly say that I've arrived at a place. Like our whole life we chasing something. We on a journey, so to speak. But I personally feel like you have to get there. Where are you going? You have to arrive at a place, and that place to me is a place of comfortability, vulnerability. That's where all the strength is at. Like being able to hold yourself accountable for things, being able to point out the role that you played and whatever went wrong, and having enough confidence not to divide yourself up into being the artist on this side and then, being the father on this side, like dividing those two things up. Or I'm going to be a lyricist on this when I go do the BET Cypher. And then when I'm going to make this kind of song and now I'm going to be a songwriter. You know what I mean? Like Pac didn't do none of those things. He just was one thing. He was one, you know what I mean? So in that one thing, I had Simba in here last night. We were talking about how, he talk about one thing 1 minute, another thing another minute, and those two things kind of seem to contradict each other. And I feel like those aren't contradictions at all. He feels like this one day. He feels like this another day. That's all of us. You know what I mean? So it's like when you say, who are you? It's so many things. You know what I mean? Like some days wake up, I'm the best rapper in the world. Some days you wake up, I don't even want to do this shit no more.
Yeah.
Some days you wake up and it's all about spending time with daughters. And then, I come in here and I work in here like it's a residency, like a doctor at a residency. I'll stay here for weeks. You know what I mean? Daughters be on FaceTime. Daddy, when you coming home? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like I'm dedicated to so many things. And I'm dedicated in every single way across the board at getting better, becoming a better person, better than I was yesterday. And then, you said I give you like father figure kind of vibes when I'm kind of like mentoring and I'm stepping in and giving my input on something and shit like that, giving my advice. I'm learning that's because I know what the right thing to do is. I'm very conscious of what being righteous is, and that's the path that I want to be on. But I'm not always as good at walking it as I am talking it. You know what I'm saying? Like I can give the advice. My actions don't always align with the advice. So it's like just knowing that, just that little variable right there is like how can I even sum up who I am? You know what I mean? There's so much more to figure out. And I'm trying to represent as many things as I can, man. And like anything that I do, I want to put my best foot forward, and I want it to be a part of legacy. Like I'm just trying to figure out cool things to do moving forward, to be a part of, that can go down and represent me for far longer than after I'm going to even be here. You know what I'm saying? And try to keep my name out of as many things as possible that's going to represent me in a negative way
Yeah.
for a long time. Even doing music now, it's taken me a minute to figure out exactly what I'm doing musically, because for the first time in my career, I actually care about what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
What got you there though?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think
You
it's
think it's
probably
just
just
a
because I'm older.
combination of age and wisdom?
Yeah. I mean, it's now more than ever, I just feel like there's a responsibility that comes along with being afforded the luxury of a platform, man. Like,
So you say you aspect that you care about what you say, but do you care about what people think? Because
no,
those two seem connected though.
I care about what people think. I think we all do, but I don't let what people think dictate anything. You know, like, but that all plays into what I was saying about being comfortable in your own skin. You got to be okay with people not being okay with things. You know what I mean? Like, if the universe the universe responds to intent. That's how I feel. I feel like intention is everything. So as long as my intention is good, however it resonates with you, it doesn't make it a misfire because you don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can process it however you like. It's unfortunate that you feel that way. It's unfortunate that you feel like it was something subliminal about it, or it was something, you know what I mean? But I'm a straight shooter, you know what I mean? And I'm okay with people not liking my music. I'm okay with people not liking me. And I feel like every adult, especially black man, has to set boundaries. And we all got our limitations. Mine's just so happened to be, don't put your hands on me and don't play with me. You know what I mean? Some
Don't
people
play
like,
with me is a statement that I feel like is of course about respect. How do a person know when they playing or not? Because I feel like I always use the analogy of if a wolf meets another wolf, right? Most of the time, a wolf can sense another wolf easy. You smell through sight. If a wolf meets a sheep, or if a sheep meets a wolf in sheep's clothing, you can't always tell. The sheep go think that the wolf is just like them, because the sheep don't have senses like a wolf, so she can't smell and know when they're in danger. So when you sometimes show up as a wolf in sheep's clothing, you give people this, false reality, right? That they're safe playing with you. We're not knowing that we completely two different species over here, right? So how do you set that boundary to let people know, like, listen, if you go beyond this, what I have set based on who I am, because everybody, what they give respect and what they need to receive at respect is different based on who they are, their integrity, and how they grew up. So in today's age of social media and attention, people go communicate crazy because it's on the airwaves, where that communication is not in proximity, so they feel like they can get away with more, right? So how do you deal with that as far as being a man that requires his respect, requires his space, right? But dealing in a world that doesn't even really understand those commandments anymore.
it's a I think the biggest part of that is understanding how to read the room. And when I say the room, I mean the world, because that's basically what the internet is. If you can read the room, then you have a much better understanding of what's going on. And when you make a statement like "don't play with me," it don't mean you got to take yourself so serious.
Yeah.
And it also you got to have an understanding of what you're being judged against, in comparison to, in contrast to. There's a lot of people who like to play. There's a lot of people who build whole brands off playing. Rappers don't necessarily have the best reputation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I understand that. And I also understand that right now I'm at a point in my life where the biggest challenges are like building relationships with people who you wouldn't otherwise have a relationship with, or you wouldn't otherwise connect with unless there was some common denominator like music that would bring you together. But in my journey, I've learned that if you can figure out a way to build a relationship with somebody that's not necessarily like you can be like-minded in different ways, but it can be somebody who you wouldn't otherwise hang with if this was like high school or something like that. You can build a relationship with that person. You can do great things in this business. You know what I mean? When you surround yourself with people who are just exactly like you or like-minded in all of those kinds of ways, then you find yourself in a box around a bunch of people that are
Validating
just
the way
in
you
boxes.
think.
So when you start being up for that kind of a challenge, because I think it take courage and strength to be up for that, because it's not a safe place. You gotta come out of your comfort zone a little bit. And when you come out of your comfort zone and you open yourself up to that, you opening yourself up for compromise on some level. So I've never really taken myself so serious to where if you cross my boundary and you wasn't aware of my boundary, if I never told you about my boundary and you cross it, how can I well, I'm gonna use a term, but this is for lack of a better term. How can I discipline you based off of something that you didn't know?
Yeah.
So like part of building a relationship, I feel like is we teach each other how to treat each other, because what you feel is crossing the line may not be the same as what I feel is crossing the line. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying to build a relationship with a brother. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't even want to go down that path. But my thing with him was I don't like people raising their voice at me when we're like we engaging in discourse. Raising your voice, that's a, I don't know if it's a trigger for me, but that's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, same.
Like, nobody in my life yells at me. I don't yell at anybody in my life. And I want to keep it that way. I don't know why that is, because some people completely comfortable with shouting. You know what I mean? So
Well, I think as black men, we don't like authority anyway. So a person shouting is automatically putting themselves in a place of authority.
yeah, and I just think, especially shouting on a public platform, and that's not necessarily the nature of your relationship. It's sending off the wrong signal. And I just like to keep everything exactly like what our relationship. When this camera go off, how we would talk to each other. When the camera come on, I want to talk to each other the same way. So my thing is,
Well, so what do you think? Because I think what the bigger thing, I think there's a lot of males rather, that find themselves doing sucker shit but don't know how not to be a sucker. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things, because when you get caught up in this attention society, the rules change. You think it's normal. Then you have certain men who grew up with, let's just say, old school principles, because it ain't new school, because this shit done changed. So then, you doing what's normally accepted in common society, right? Then you run into one of those that's like, nah, this is not how it go around me, though. You feel me? It's like a black person having a white friend that say nigga all day long. Then they run into somebody they in a room with and they hear him say it, like, what you just say? You know what I mean? Now it's an issue and a problem because they feel slighted and disrespected. So what are some of the tenets that, somebody who feel like, I want to be more of a man like Royce, I want to be more of a man like Keys and them, but I don't have a man that's teaching me those type of rules of how to deal with other men in those situations, right? Like my father taught me the proper handling of people at an early age. You dig? So there's certain things that I'm never going to do unless I'm intentionally trying to be disrespectful to push your button on purpose. Right? Which is not my character, but I'm saying, like, I would know how to go there. But I feel like there's men who may know or may not know where they're doing things that has to be taken as disrespect, and they don't realize because they have people whose bar is set so low for respect. Like, you go to different places, you in New Orleans, they call each other bitch. In Oakland, you say that, you can get killed for it.
Right.
You dig? So different boundaries for different places, different people. So how does a man live by a certain golden rule, to establish getting respect and giving respect?
I mean, exactly what you just said, though. Like, having that kind of understanding that there's different ways that people carry themselves in different facets in different parts of the world. If you're an Oakland guy and you in New Orleans, and the natives are talking to you how the natives talk, that's a perfect opportunity. That's a teachable moment to me. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a moment. That's not wartime.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to understand each other, and that's power.
Yeah,
If
I
you
was
can,
just imagining that scenario of
yeah,
you talking and somebody say, "What up, bitch?" and you like,
yeah, you can't go around the world disciplining everybody. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? But you know, you're not gonna go around the world and be everybody's doormat neither.
right,
And please believe, man, like we all know, all of us real ones know that, you know, there's different dialect, there's different ways that we speak around the world, but we all have a general understanding of what respect is. And I think the more that we go through, the more the different kinds of relationships that we go in and out of, we develop a better and better judge of character each time. And you know when you're dealing with somebody who
you're not supposed to play with.
if you're actually teaching them, and then if it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this person think I'm gonna just hold his hand and walk him through how to respect somebody. It's like, bro, we see there are people in the game right now. I don't need to say their names. There's a few people in the game right now that culturally across the board, people don't play with. No matter how they talk from where they're from,
That's
no
a
matter
fact.
how, they just know not to play with them because maybe it's something that these individuals may have done action-wise
Right.
that set a precedence. So what does that teach us? That teaches us that respect is a universal thing. People will push the boundary. You know, some white people will push the boundary to see how far they can go. But if you got one black friend who allow you to say the N-word, you're a smart guy. You know that don't mean that it's cool to go
Right.
across the board and say it. And if somebody checks you on it, and you appear to be so confused, it's only but so much that I'm going to even believe that you don't understand
Yeah, that's a
why
fact.
that's inappropriate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's when people try to test things,
Yeah.
test the waters.
Yeah, and when I feel like it's that type of situation, that's when I digress out of the conversation. I'm not interested in. I'm not teaching you. You want me to teach you how to be an adult?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that. We're not the only group of people that has like words that is a hands-off thing. You know what I
that's a
mean? Like
fact.
we got to a point where all we can do is colloquialize words. You know what I'm saying? Like to empower ourselves in our own kind of like little way. So it's just like, man,
And a
how
lot
you
of this communication was meant to be between each other.
yeah.
So when it was started in the streets, we wasn't thinking about saying it on platforms.
Mm-hmm.
It was because this is how we go communicate in the streets, in the hoods, in the ghettos of America, dealing with each other when we got a commonality. You understand me? And it's our code. So when one person speaks that language, oh, they are part of the same code. They are part of the same tribe. Then of course hip hop takes it and embeds it into entertainment, and now it's culturally thrown and it's sold. So now the people that buy it say, well, why can't I repeat what's sold to me? I bought this. So a lot of white people feel like I bought the N-word. You understand me? Y'all sold it to me, I bought it. How come I can't repeat, you understand me, the energy that I bought? If y'all didn't want it sold and said, why did you sell me the nigga?
Well, I believe they should be able to say it. While they in the cars driving, listening
Yeah.
to it. While they listening to it.
Somebody gonna clip it up right there at that part.
Yeah.
Because that's the end of it.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna get to the car part.
Yeah, I mean, say it with impunity, you know, in your own, you know, little world, but just be respectful.
You ever
Don't-
slapped somebody for saying it before?
I actually have.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have. It actually was a slap
Was it
too.
therapeutic?
Damn, was it therapeutic?
I find those type of things to be therapeutic when they happen.
Because I don't really look at it. I don't really look at a slap like violence, man. Like
Nah.
I look at it like that's like a form of communication. Sometimes when we use our words, I'm serious, man. Like sometimes we use our words, and that's not enough. That's not enough to cut through. Sometimes
You gotta use body language.
you got to use physical language. 'Cause that's a form of communication.
That's a fact.
That sometimes people only understand that.
It's
you
like
know?
a wake up call. I gotta, you know what I mean? You was tripping
Sometimes
for a second.
it's energy. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just somebody's energy and it resonates. Sometimes people need like a little bit of slap. My dad taught me that super early. I learned respect in the household. My
Yeah.
father, we'd be having a funny conversation,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I just get beside myself just a
Yeah.
little bit. Next thing you know, whoop, pop.
It's funny because my pops was like, he was like, so you would see him, he'd be always serious, then out of nowhere he'd crack a joke. You know what I'm saying? It'd be so funny because you know when it's somebody that's always serious, then he'd just see something, he'd just make everybody laugh. But as soon as that joke is over, you go back to seeing him as the stern man as he is. So it was never like, oh, this is just cool to play with him, because it was the playtime was always the 1%. Everything else is like, this is who I am 99. You understand me? So if you catch me on some chill, then that's what we doing. But right after that, go back to my 99.
All on his terms.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But you gotta, I was always taught too much playing is no good. You dig? Because you set that precedence for people to play with you like that. So if you always on goofy time, now somebody acting goofy with you, but you saying, well, I'm not on that time. Well, how they know? Right? Because 50 or 60% of the time you playing. The 40% now you want to switch up. So you give people the wrong expectation when your character, your main character, however you want to project yourself, that's who you should be for real. Because people gonna treat you as you are.
Yeah.
Because if you take yourself more serious than has the world perceives you, then they go play with you. Because some people, like, in hip hop, everybody say they're a gangster, but if you get around a person, it's like, that's not the energy that's communicated to me. So I'm going to deal with you based on your energy, not the perception that you're selling. So I think that that's what happens as well in the streets, and that's just what happened in society, period, is that people think that, like, it's like a woman with a filter on Instagram. In person, a person going to treat you as beautiful as they see you, right? But on Instagram, you may get 1 million likes for a picture that has a filter and you got makeup on, so you want that same perception in reality. It don't work like that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're portraying an image and a character to the world, I can only imagine the kind of pressure that one could be under, feeling like that they have to live up to that at all times. So, like, my perception of a gangster or like a tough guy was never somebody who, probably because I grew up boxing. So, like, I don't necessarily look at fighting as like violence. I look at it more like contact. It's more of a sport to me. So, like, my uncle was a pro fighter. So he always taught us, you never want to be mad when you're fighting.
Right.
You want to be relaxed and calm. So I don't have to be angry to put my hands on somebody. So I said that to say, when I'm around somebody, I never looked at tough guys. My picture of a tough guy was never somebody who just acting tough all the time. Whenever I seen guys acting like that and feeling like they needed to carry themselves like that all the time, I always thought it was something.
Right.
Like it's something up. Like if you talking to somebody and all you hear is, because I'm solid, man. I'm solid. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm solid. I'm real. I'm solid. I'm solid. I'm real. I'm real. I'm solid. And it's just like
they trying to convince themselves.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't have to say all of that, though. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing that made me question it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
plus, you could be tough but not dangerous.
Yeah.
You understand me? Like the analogy of boxing, you can take the average person and teach them boxing, and they're going to be able to beat a percentage of the world just based on having that skill. But it don't mean they tough. It mean they just learn something and they can apply it. You understand me? But they may not be able to go through the same thing as somebody that grew up in an impoverished environment or went through jail or been through different situations. They might not be as tough as that person, but they can be more skilled, which makes them more dangerous as well, right? And so it's that whole dichotomy of a person feeling like they got to, add on this hyper extension of their character at all times and be seen this way, and it could be a lack of your actual skill sets.
It's always a lack of something. To me, in my mind, it's always a lack of something. When I'm dealing with somebody and they're making me feel like that they're micromanaging my expectations of them, that's weakness.
Yeah.
That's weakness to me. People who are comfortable in their skin and are like kind to others, to me, it's just like that's a person who's okay with you thinking whatever you want about them. You know what I'm saying? You can think whatever you want. I'm gonna be kind to others, but then there's that switch. And then, once the switch happens.
Yeah. What city you think produced the most dangerous rappers throughout history?
Dangerous in what way?
Dangerous in the way that they was actually respected for being who they were.
Respected for being who they were in the realm of what? Like, you talking about street shit?
The streets and when it came to their music.
What city produces the most dangerous? That's a good question. I mean, because you can name people from everywhere, but
not even city. Let's say state there.
You got New York got to be one of them, because I mean New York is they the originators. But then I know, but we all got them. I mean, even if you go out west, then you got to separate the Bay from just L.A. You know what I mean? But L.A. had, Cube, Snoop, the whole NWA, that whole movement. That was, that was a whole plethora of like real men. You know what I mean? Like real men who had something to say in a major way. You know what I mean? And like use their authority, their aggression, and they figured out a way to apply it to the culture to move it forward and be progressive. Like when I think about guys like Snoop, Jay-Z, these are guys who they showed you so many layers of themselves over the years, and they showed you so many redeeming qualities about themselves as they grew. But it was a natural progression. Not everybody comes right into the game like Chuck D. You know what I mean? Like he was at an elevated level of consciousness at an early age.
Right.
That's like not something that you see often.
What's the difference between like you got drill rap music now and then gangster music as it came out in like the 90s and stuff? Because both of them is projecting a particular type of energy, but what's the differences that you see for this new age drill music, you understand me, and then the classic gangster music?
Well, if I can just be totally honest, I feel like that the gangster music, and I don't want to sound like a old head, but the gangster rap to me, on the highest level of gangster rap, I'm talking about NWA, I'm talking about Ice Cube, Death Certificate, those kind of albums. They were young guys painting you a picture and making you aware of the things that they were concerned about in their communities that weren't being addressed. They were giving a voice to the kids in underserved communities who didn't have a voice. This is what's going on in Cali. This is why I hate the police. Fuck the police, because they're doing this, they're doing that. It was more of a political statement, and it was more of young people liberating young people. But the message that they were getting across and the pictures that they were painting, it was very easy for somebody to take that and process it as glorifying violence, glorifying negativity, and young black people using it as a tool to spark more bullshit. I get why people looked at it like that, but I personally didn't process it like that. And I think the way that I processed it and the way that it ended up turning out, looking at it in retrospect, I must say I was right. Look at what Ice Cube has grown to become. Look what Snoop has grown to become. Look what Dr. Dre has grown to become. Now, fast forward and you compare that in contrast to drill rap. Drill rap to me is none of those things. Drill rap to me is the glorification of street violence that existed before these guys even decided to even rap.
But wouldn't they be children and products of the gangster rap
absolutely.
itself in just
Absolutely.
a degraded way? Because the consciousness faded over time.
Listen, that's not an indictment.
Yeah.
That's not an indictment on them, because I'm not against drill rap. I like drill rap. But you asked me to compare.
Yes,
You know what I mean? So I'm looking at what they're doing. This is the first time in history.
Could they become Jay-Z's?
Absolutely.
Because it's like, when I look at, because that statement can be seen in a lot of different ways, right? So if I look at gangster rap, because I know for a fact in the black community, once you become successful, whatever you did was okay, right? It's like, Kanye West can't do no wrong because he's richer than everybody. You understand me? As a billionaire, what we look at as, the highest level is money, right? So if you got the most money in the culture, you can't do no wrong. And nobody who has less money can tell you anything. He recently said that statement, like, well, listen to somebody poorer than me, right? And in hip hop, that you can't get no more boasting and say, I'm richer than everybody in the culture. So, hold the people that have a certain level of success still to as human accountability. You understand me? We feel like that overrides anything that they've done. So it's like you can build a foundation on the backs of, let's say, negativity, right? But as long as you get to a point where, listen, I've transcended that now, so does my past matter? right? So like, I want to do a great sit down with Ice Cube because there's a lot of different things to talk about. People talk about Ice Cube and Ice T as being like the most prolific gangster rappers to say fuck the police. But then both of them went on to play cops, right? So it's a completely 360 from what they was putting out, right? So was it a rejection of the energy that they was putting out and then, you know, they changed because it was too powerful, right? Because that particular energy was about, it was a political statement. It was against the system. The governments didn't like that. The politicians didn't like that, right? But then the politics left gangster rap, and then it was just street, right? So the street business, and then turn into pimping, right? And then you have all of these other different iterations of rap music that came about. And today, when we see these people 10, 20, 30 years later, and they successful billionaires, right? There's no way to judge or to measure the effects, right, of their career because now they've transcended the things that they used to do, right? And to some point, a lot of them haven't because you still talk about the same, you know, things that you've done in the streets to remind people like, not play with me, right? Because this is what I come from. So it's like in our culture, we had glorified selling drugs for 50 years and never give up on it. You dig? You ain't touched the Pyrex and you don't know the prices of the new drugs that's on the street. But it's still going to be embedded in that because we know that that's the part that's culture. And then you wrap that around and try to get some intellect and a message in it, right? So like Jay-Z, he go put a message in it, but before the message come, like, yo, I used to sell drugs. Now let me give y'all a message. So I'm you. Now let me tell you where I'm at, right? So it's like hip-hop can never be seen as one way or never judged in one way. So it's like, but with these drill rappers, they saying, well, they could be saying, well, let me go through that same process that y'all went through to get to y'all success. Because you may look at us in today's time and the effect that it has, and this blast this on social media has real impact in the streets, but it's like every era had that same impact. You understand me? West Coast meets East Coast. You feel me? That whole warfare between Pac and Biggie and everything that spilt from that and all of the different, you know, you got, you know, for 50 and Ja. And so now these new kids is like, bro, we ain't doing nothing new. We actually taking y'all blueprint, and this is how we would use y'all blueprint in today's time, because this is what works for us. You feel me? So it's hard to even have an indictment on a person's actions now, besides the fact that we now have consciousness. Well, not even consciousness. We have the ability to reflect on what was done. There wasn't a gangster rapper, Ice Cube and them. There wasn't gangster rappers before them to be like, yo, this is what happened, so we not gonna do that.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that's not to cut you off, but I think that's the reason why. That's the reason why we can hold them to a higher standard. You know, like Ice Cube and Ice T and those guys. We got to keep in mind that they weren't making the statements that they were making to be famous or to be on the radio. They were doing it, Uncle Luke.
Yeah.
They were doing it. They were stepping up and being outspoken because they didn't want anybody to violate their First Amendment right, freedom of speech. You trying to tell us how to speak? You trying to ban my music? You know, banned in the USA. I should be able to do whatever I want to do. And you know, they took it to the Donahue show, the Oprah. You know, like Ice-T had a song called Cop Killer, which was a song about killing a cop because he was tired of cops killing our kids. And we got the same problems today. Nothing has changed on that side, you know what I mean? But Ice Cube, they tried to ban the song, they tried to ban him. They had police sitting on the corner in front of his house. They used to follow him around. He put his life on the line, you know, to stand up for his First Amendment right and not let them violate that. And I just feel like when you're talking about culture and you're talking about creativity, when people are the front runners of making that kind of a stance, they're opening up doors for you, the future guys coming. So now everybody has a platform and everybody can say pretty much whatever they want to say without even really being questioned about it. And it seems like we have less to say now than we did back then. You know what I mean? So it's almost incomparable, gangster rap of then drill rap of now. They're not.
Yeah, different eras.
It's not the same thing, because now that we had the internet, we're more privy to the things that are going on in the jungles in these different areas that we didn't really even know about before. So gang wars in Chicago is different from gang wars in LA. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? So, and then artistry is different. All of these guys that's making drill records, they're not all artists. Some of them are just gangsters making rap songs about the work that they putting in. You know what I mean? So that's never gonna be okay. But that's not for everybody to understand. You can't expect to be able to wrap your brain around something that if you're not from that, or you not, it's not close enough in proximity to you for you to really be able to put a finger on what it must feel like to be one of those babies in those environments. Like when you in the environment, you're gonna do as the environment does. If the environment is speaking the gun language, and that's the language you need to speak in order to survive, then you're an instant killer. And that's not, you don't have a choice.
Right.
You know, and it's like that with a lot of guys who fell into the drug game as well. Like, how many years have we been saying, yo, I didn't have a choice, I didn't have an option? People don't want to hear that when they have options, because they can't understand, they can't ascertain it, they can't wrap their brain around what it must feel like to be a kid from these environments, and the only clear pathway that you see in your mind out of this environment that you didn't choose to be in. And let's keep in mind, these environments that I'm talking about, these underserved communities, are created.
Fact.
It's not like...
What about now, though, where, all right, so a person can say, well, we got the internet now, right? So, you know, if you look at statistics from, they say an average rapper makes around $70,000 a year, right? And I'm not sure exactly where they metrics is from, but I guess they just looking at, you know, what people is filing, what they making, those who consider themselves to be rappers.
Probably not even doing that.
Yeah, most people not doing that. So let's say that, you know, a person want to be a rapper, a young kid want to be a rapper because they thinking they gonna be Drake. They thinking they gonna be Future and Jay-Z, right? They thinking they gonna be Royce. They gonna get this bag. But the reality of it is that the average rapper ain't making nowhere near that kind of money. So then you start to say, well, listen, you can be a TikToker and make more money than a rapper. You did? Really, they become the same thing because it becomes about attention and it's about money. Rappers want nothing but clout and money. The new paradigm for capitalism is if you can get attention, you can leverage that to get money, right? There's a million different ways to make money nowadays, so it's like your exposure is way more expansive than your environment now. So when, you know, you grow up in the hood and all you see is a drug dealer rolling down the street, he got his car, he got the money, he got the change, he got the women, then of course in your environment that looks way better than McDonald's or working at White Castles or whatever other spot. So there's no way you choosing that over this glorified life. But when you got the internet, man, wait a minute, there's hella ways to make money. I just got to choose one. But the problem is that, you know, even when people in today's time, we got all these different ways to make money, they not glorified, right, in the same way. And that's through media because, you know, media is connected to the music companies and different things of that nature. So, of course, you know, those who put out the bullshit, they go get the looks. They got money behind them. So you thinking that this is success, this is what success looks like. Because not only do they want money, they want the attention. So if the guy that drives the truck, the guy that does real estate, the guy that does credit, the guy that does, you know, tech or coding, if they still not getting the looks, the women not looking at them, then they don't look at those as glorified options. They options, but it don't come with the clout.
Yeah.
You understand me? And I think that's the change and the difference, but at the same time, young people just got to know, not even young people, just people presently just got to know the options have changed. Yeah, you could live a way better lifestyle, you know, picking a different option than trying to be a rapper. And you can still be a rapper if that's your passion, but when it comes to actually making money, it's a million more ways that's more effective.
Well, my answer to that, or my theory on that is I think there may be too many options out there now. Because of the internet.
Yo, I'm Big Keys, man. We doing blockchain things over here at the Block World Order. We learned about cryptocurrency, how to trade it, how to buy it, how to sell it, what are the strategies that we need to jump in and out,
We're getting signals for trading. We're learning about NFTs, how to build them, how to utilize them in your business. We learned about STBs, soul-bound tokens. We learned about DAOs, the future of businesses, organizations, institutions. We learned about blockchain technology. All of these great concepts that you're hearing about in the world, the metaverse, this gaming, we actually gonna learn how to build it. We're gonna learn everything about it from the basics to the masterful side of it, right? Once you join Block World Order, you will now be a part of a community that will be working to build out the future. Not only are we gonna be learning how to build it out, but how to take advantage and gain wealth within it. During these uncertain times, you cannot be without the skill sets of the future. Make sure you tap into the Block World Order, because not only are we learning technology, but we're learning you. That's right, I said you. We're learning how you can take your mind and you can increase your intelligence by learning these new learning skills, learning how to hack the human mind, learning how to become a better version of yourself by understanding your multidimensional capacity, how to go from being nothing to empty your mind to where you can tap into new skill sets and start learning 30 to 40% better, to where you can have increased confidence, increased focus. We don't just want you to learn blockchain technology, we want you to learn yourself. Make sure you tap into the Block World Order. There's a new world and a new you way.
And I think knowledge and information, to me, is to be pursued. I don't know. I don't know if knowledge being at the end of your fingertips 24 hours a day is having the best effect on the community. Because number one, you don't really know what's attainable and what's not. You see all of these things in front of you. You see, and no matter what these options are, these real estate guys, all of them are going to tell you that they're rich. They're going to tell you that they're making all kinds of money. So it looked like a great option. It's something that people would definitely want to get into, but how would they know how to do that?
Yeah, it's definitely the education and the work ethic.
Yeah.
I think most people don't know how to learn and they lazy. So we try to go for the most microwavable option as possible.
Yeah, or the option that you see that you can probably flesh out. So with rapping, shit, that's an inbox and a microphone in your project apartment. So I mean, you can start there and you can upload a song. I mean, anybody can do that, and that's what they're doing now. In turn, real estate and shit like that, you're gonna look at it like, well, I don't know how to do that. So the first time I get my hands on some money, maybe I'll get into that. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's books and stuff that you can read, but we haven't been programmed to do that. I mean, we still evolving from not being allowed to learn how to read. You know what I mean? So of course our study habits are not going to be up to par.
But okay, so let me be God's advocate on that. Because we at this point in time where now we got a lot of platforms, we got a lot of media. Mm-hmm. Those of us who have found themselves with some success and have a platform don't always utilize their platform to show different options. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing to put it in the music, it's another thing to put resources behind it. Mm-hmm. You dig? And I think that's what's wholly missing the most part is that there are people who have, you got Google University, you got YouTube University, a lot of people who just learn a lot of stuff on that. And that just goes to the mindset. I think the mindset is missing nowadays because a man is his mentality. So a man got ambition, he gonna go out there and get it regardless of excuse, regardless of issue. Yeah. So I never like validating people's excuses because they got enough ways that they go figure out a way to validate it.
No, we can't validate.
But like
we definitely can't validate their excuses, but
like you had a song where you put Derek Grace on a song, Rizza Islam on a song. I feel like that, and I remember I was talking to Mr. Fab about this. My first high-level conversation I ever did was with Mr. Fab in Oakland. And I was talking about what happens when the thought leaders and the rappers get together.
I seen something dope. Royce the 5'9", he shouted out Derek Grace and Rizza Islam.
Derek Grace. So you ever seen the guy kind of heavy set with the tattoo? Okay, yeah. So I reached out to him and just thanked him and was like, yo, man, you inspired me to look for those teachable moments with my kids.
And this to me, we be letting moments pass like this ain't the perfect way we supposed to be moving with each other. So when I looked at that, he said on the album, he said, look, the way y'all use y'all platforms allow me, and speaking truth and everything, allowed me to use my platform like this. Right. So it opened that door for him.
And I always talked about how there's going to be a time where the rappers and the thought leaders, they merge together. Because a rapper might not want to do all talking super high intellectual all the time. But if that's what he engaged with and that's what his mind is tapping into, that's selfish for him not lead his audience in that direction.
Most definitely.
And the thesis was the fact that y'all have the intention, right? And then over here, here's the intellect, the knowledge, possibly the education and skills. And if you marry those together, you understand me, then you got a winning formula. And so when I seen you do that, I said, okay, this is the first time I see somebody acknowledging this side of the world and then giving attention to it. So it's things like that to where, you know, I see rappers and comedians connect together because they can share audiences, but now we in this new phase where, you know, the entertainers and the thought leaders can combine and connect together if you have one of those, you know, mindsets to where you feel like you want to project something good to your people. So now it shows an option, be like, damn, I could be a thought leader and stand next to a rapper and get the same kind of looks. For a young child growing up, it's the same thing. He got money, he got money. He got fame, he got fame. You know what I'm saying? He do business, he do business. You dig? So I think a lot of it is on us as a culture. The onus is on us as a culture to be like, all right, what am I actually projecting? Who am I actually pushing up from this generation? And it got to be something based on what you want to see, because there's always somebody doing it. They just don't have a platform like you.
Yeah, somebody like myself. You mentioned Derek and Reza. Like their words and their movements and stuff started resonating with me at a certain point. But there was a point prior to that where I wouldn't even pay anything like that any attention.
Right.
You know, so because of shit like that is the reason why I try not to be too judgmental of the youngins. Because I do believe that timing is everything, and there comes a point in time we all have breakthrough moments, spiritual awakenings. You know, we keep doing our part and pushing with the information. At some point, hopefully, it resonates with one of them at the right time, where one of them has a breakthrough and they start to change, or they start to get confident enough to be okay with evolving. You know, like, I remember being in class as a kid and not wanting to raise my hand. I know the answer to something. I don't want to raise my hand because I don't want to look like a nerd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to admit that I'm understanding this like nothing. You know, I'd rather wait until it's something I can't understand and then be kind of vocal about that, because I don't want to, you know, fitting in was more important to me than actually, you know, like taking in the information. And I think if you, and this is pre-internet, so you can only imagine now, fitting in is even more the caveat to the kids. Fitting in is like, that's like the number one thing. Nobody wants to be looked at as like the standout or the weird kid over there who's not like everybody else. So you literally talking about people who go to the internet to find out what to like. What should I be liking this week? You know what I mean? Like, you literally have more casual fanfare now than you've ever had before. And on top of having more niche audience and nuances than ever before.
And it's funny, that niche audience. I was at Empire. They had one of those brunches, right? And I had just interviewed Money Man at BET, and I went to their thing. And I'm sitting there, I'm sitting towards the front, chilling, fly as hell. You know what I'm saying? And all of the rappers that was coming in, they would stop and they'd greet, and then we'd speak. I was talking to a rapper, a street rapper, right? And he was explaining to me, just kind of, I'm getting the same sentiment from everybody else. It's like, man, they listen to the high level conversations. They love what we do with the platform. And they like, basically, you know, we stuck doing this rap shit, this gangster rap shit, but we really want to be able to transition over and do something different. But it's hard for them to jump into a new fan base. You understand me? Because they built their platform on this vertical, right, of street rap. So I'm seeing a change where cats is getting this exposure, it's expanding their mind, right, of what they seeing that's out there. And they feel bad for putting out the music that they putting out, because now they more aware of the effect that it's having.
They shouldn't feel bad about that.
Why not?
Because, man, it's like,
but that's a human
you gotta first establish the platform. And then you got to put out the music, you got to put out the messaging, and then when you get the response, then you start to have an understanding of how important your words are. after you see the effect that it's having on people. Like I never was gonna talk about sobriety in my raps. I was gonna keep that a secret because I was worried about my audience prior to how they would receive that. But then I don't know what happened. I ended up talking about it in my music, and once I seen the way that it was helping people, it gave me a whole different perspective on it. And as I grew, and as I started to pay attention to my platform, especially with the internet, where you can actually read how people feel about things in real time in the comment section, then you start to realize, oh shit, I'm not just a rapper. Yo, this shit comes with a responsibility. This is like, because all the way up until this point, we've been made to feel like every other kid in the ghetto with $1 in his pocket. My dollar ain't worth shit. You know what I'm saying? Like my dollar is not as valuable as Jay-Z's dollar because he's inside of that TV screen. He made it to the other side of the TV screen. I'm just here with no voice.
Yeah.
I have no concept of my dollar alongside of everybody else's dollar in the community and how powerful that can be if we can control the circulation of that. But we haven't yet gotten to a point where we can actually place that kind of perspective on it. You know what I mean? So certain things have to happen in order for you to get to that point. And then once you get to that point, now you have an understanding of, damn, I can actually make a change. Because this entire time, we've always loved peace. Bust a nigga head tomorrow, it don't mean that I don't love my brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect people to understand that. I know you understand it, but I don't expect everybody to understand that. And I don't think that's for everybody to understand. I think everybody's asking a whole lot of questions. And because us as artists are made to feel beholden to the people, we feel like that we got to provide answers to things that there may not even be answers for.
Well, artists have more power, you know what I'm saying, a lot of times than politicians.
Yes.
So once your position supersedes people that's supposed to be in positions of role model and power, then that onus is on you.
Yeah.
I know you didn't know how powerful you was, but we trying to tell you how powerful you are.
Yeah, it's not your choice. Like, you don't get to choose whether you're a role model.
Yeah, I always say all rappers are role models, and some of them not good at it.
Yeah,
because once you garner that attention and you got influence, right, then people are going to model themselves after the role that you playing.
It's like being anointed and saying, no, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
I'm good on the whole anointed part. Let me just make my music, and whatever comes from it, and those people eventually fall off.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. I think it was recently, even Cardi B was saying that how, she didn't want certain lyrics in her song. She didn't want to rap a certain way anymore, right? Yeah. We seen Young Thug say the same thing, that he ain't want to, present himself a certain way because his son was watching.
And we heard Young Thug say the opposite prior to. You put a mic in his face and it's like, yo, don't talk to me about none of that Reverend Al Sharpton shit. Talk to them activist niggas about that.
Mike Brown, the Ferguson situation. What do you think needs to be changed in the way that black men are policed in America?
Leave that up with the critics and the laws and all that other shit. We having fun, we iced out, we having money. That's how we doing it.
And then he seen the backlash that he got from that, and he started to achieve more success. Then he started having a breakthrough. He started talking different. He started dressing different. He quit doing the dresses and all of that shit because he seen the effect that it was having. I wish the brother could have had a breakthrough even sooner than that to avoid the indictment, because ultimately that's where it goes. It goes there, or it goes to, God forbid, the graveyard. You know what I mean? Those are the two pathways. But I think he's a great case study. He's a great artist to look at, who we saw evolve. First of all, we all love evolution, whether we know how to articulate that or not. Like we love every single part of the growth. We love the lowest level of you. If you can figure out a cool way to do it, to express like the necessary ignorance, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then somehow grow from that. And then grow from that. And then now you present yourself like a straight up grown man, and we feel like we've grown with you the whole time. That's a great thing.
I think that's the key. I think we love evolution. You know what I'm saying? It's like an upgrade. It's like
Redeem
you
it.
get an iPhone, you start off with one, then it upgrades over time.
Redeem it, yeah.
I think sometimes when you try to skip that step, you feel like something completely different than what we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be a gradual evolution so people can go on that journey with you. They can respect it. They can see the steps. They understand why you got here. Now they have an expectation for you to grow. And once you meet that expectation, they happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, being a, and I think it was 21 Savage that talked about how rappers don't get the ability to just be entertainers. They have to be taken serious, right? Do you think that that's on the rapper, or do you think that that's on the fan? Because, the comparison was like, Scarf or Al Pacino, doesn't get to be seen as a gangster. He gets to walk around. He don't have expectations of being tough, while a rapper has complete expectations of being tough and got to protect himself after he entertains the crowd about gangster stories and rap and persona.
Well, I mean, it'd be very difficult to compare those two things, because Al Pacino has, and this is respectfully, of course, I love 21 Savage, but
Yeah.
Al Pacino never presented himself to us as a gangster as himself. He never said, "Yo, I'm Al Pacino, the gangster." He's done an amazing job playing a gangster in particular roles where you damn near felt like that was him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when he goes back to his regular life, he's going back to his regular life. He's played many characters, not just gangsters.
Right.
Now on the rap side of it, hip hop itself is built. The foundation of hip hop is authenticity. So anything that comes off in the hip hop medium as anything other than authentic, it doesn't translate well. So we usually rally behind people who present something to us and we believe them. If we believe you, then yeah, it's a letdown if we find out that you're something different and you were just marketing to us.
Right, we got an
People don't like to.
expectation.
I don't think people like to be marketed to.
Yeah, we don't like to be fooled.
Yeah, so
You
it's
know what
like
I'm saying?
it's not pressure unless you are manipulating the people.
Right.
But it shouldn't be any pressure to just be yourself, and you can express different layers of yourself, and then there may be certain layers of yourself that you haven't expressed. People may not know that you like having ice cream with your kids at 2 p.m. I mean, Q-tips.
But that's becoming more. I remember what rappers wouldn't even have a main one, and then now they got wife. Then they have a wife that became popular. Everybody had to get them a girl.
But we
then
always
children.
we always had it. We just didn't have the strength to just say it,
Right.
because we all are in bed with a social construct. You know what I mean? Like what the measuring stick for cool is the rule that we abide by, and we live our lives under the microscope, in front of the camera, under public scrutiny at all times. But
so do you think that's part of the record label's influence on that? You understand me? Because this is one thing I always see. It's like when a person, let's say, sign a bad contract, everybody judges the rapper. Nobody looks at who was the exec, you understand me, that authorized that particular contract, right? So it's kind of that thing where you blame the victim, right, instead of the oppressor or the victimizer. What's the role of the record labels, if they have any role, in pushing, I don't know, perhaps a better agenda?
for what? Like if you're a record label, and the music industry itself, like this shit is evolving from. There was a time where artists got paid with fame. That was their pay.
Yeah.
And then artists started to learn about publishing. And then they started asking for it.
Yeah.
And it was a fight for that. Then artists started learning about their masters. They start fighting for it. They start having that. It's an evolution. And then, before that, there was the evolution of black executives, black label owners who adopted the same business philosophies and ideologies as the labels that you would put into the category of the oppressor. And some of them just, I'm sure, did it just because they felt like I'm going to do as the Romans do. Others did it to be competitive. How can I be fair? And all of my contemporaries, none of them are fair. And do I even look at it like it's unfair, or do I just look at it like I'm here to get money? I mean, shit. One of the first black slaves that got exonerated, who developed a really close relationship with his slave master, and he got vindicated as a slave, and somehow fell into some wealth. He became the first black person to own slaves. You know what I mean? Dave Chappelle told that story last time I went to see him, and I really just feel like it's a program way of being. You know, like Berry Gordy is a great man. He's done great things for Detroit as a whole, and he's created megastars, superstars, icons. But sometimes I often wonder if there wasn't such a need and a desire for white people to accept the music that was being made. And when I say that respectfully, because like the way that they marketed the music back then was, we're not making black music. We're letting you know that we're making music for all people, you know, because they felt like black people doing soul music was looked at as black music, chitlin circuit, and then a white man like Elvis or somebody can sing the same shit, and you know it'd be considered a pop hit. So his thing was, we're not gonna make black music. We're gonna make music for all people, even when as far as not putting pictures of the artist on the album artwork in an attempt to, you know, just get out there and compete like everybody else. Keep in mind, Motown was a company that was built in the spirit of segregation. You know, like they weren't going to certain areas in Detroit because, not that white people were like fucking hopping out like the Ku Klux Klan, but they're just not liking the way that they were being treated. You know what I mean? Being looked at funny.
Right.
It just made them stay in their own areas, and it kind of forced them to have their own independent kind of mind frame. A lot of the businesses were bred in the spirit of that in their own communities. And there was a certain solidarity that got built like that. So that's kind of like where Hitsville came from. And as it grew, in the attempt to integrate more into society and more into pop culture, that turned into him moving Motown to Cali, and then ultimately and consequently, it turned into him selling Motown. And by doing that, I personally feel like that he empowered that power structure to abuse us with impunity from then to now and beyond. And I feel like had that not been done, Motown could have been like a beacon of hope and something to fall back on for us, where we're not coming into the industry so afraid of making mistakes, and we're not coming into an industry where we control the largest part of the market share, but we're being made to feel like, you know, I'm doing you a favor. You know, you're welcome. You know, you can be replaced. You could be, you know what I mean? So a lot of these kids are signing these deals knowing that they aren't equipped with the information, but they also don't want to let an opportunity pass. You know, Master P said it. He said the first offer that he got was $1 million offer, and he was told that if he didn't take it right now, if he didn't take this offer right now, he'd never work in this business again. You know, and he said, you know, he left out with his brother to decide what he was gonna do, and he said his brother was mad. Like, man, why'd you pass up on that? You know, and that's my thing. It's like, it's one thing for somebody to pass up on a deal, but it's like, why do you have to say that? Why do you have to say, yo, you'll never work in this town again if you don't take this? Why do we have to get made to feel like if we don't make a decision knowing we don't have all the information, that we'll never get an opportunity again?
That's you know what that's controlling power.
It's a business tactic, and it's a stern one, it's a shrewd one.
And then it stops us from ever making the best decisions for ourselves, because we have to make decisions based on survival and what's given to us.
And I think that's why we to play God's advocate to the point you were making about not holding the record entity accountable and only kind of like blaming the victim. I think we do hold the entities accountable. It's only when they're the black entities. Like we hold Puff accountable, we hold Hove accountable for everything. You know, like you signed a deal with him, and you know, 10 years later you sounding off about, you know, I want my masters back.
Yeah.
You don't do that to Sony.
Yeah.
You don't do that to Universal.
That's true. Because even with, you know, you talk about Empire, and I brought up Empire, and they connect all of the rappers who've died that's been under there, and people point to Ghazi, and he's Middle Eastern, but I still haven't seen any white man get brought up in any situation with any rappers, whether it's based on their masters, their royalties, death, any connection. And they faces pushed out there as part of the problem. I haven't seen it. Not one that I can think of.
Well, you got guys like Dame Dash, that I feel has been and is doing a great job at putting perspective on that.
The culture vultures.
Yeah, but I think that when guys like Dame speaks, I think it's very telling that somebody like him, who's so prolific and so fearless at the way that he approaches it, and he approaches it in a way where he's holding people accountable. Any black man like that in a position of power in this business is looked at as a disruptor.
A threat, yeah.
So he's a disruptor, and
you definitely don't want to empower a man like that with resources. So that they consider that to be even the most dangerous thing you can do, because if a Dame Dash has Kanye level money, then that's a huge threat to the entire system. You understand me? You know, Fat Joe talked about rappers having the most dangerous job, and I had commented to Charlamagne that I don't believe that's true. I believe that truth speakers do. Anybody who speak truth have the most dangerous job in the world, regardless of what job you have. Because right now, the most dangerous thing you can do is speak truth to power, right? This world is all about censoring and banning and, you know, everybody being on one narrative agenda type reality. Why you get shadow banned, you get censored on social media so much is because if you speak outside the lines of what the algorithm accepts, and that algorithm is programmed by, you know, the figureheads, then you get banned. Because now you could have influence over a younger generation. You can have influence to where people now, you know, they seen Trump, and whether Trump is seen as good or bad, regardless of who looks at him, he was able to disrupt the system and have attention and influence, right, and mess with the political process. And so now anybody that starts to have a voice that speaks truth, you've seen as an ultimate threat, because if you become successful, and it's not the way that they accept black men's success, so you have to become successful in the way that they deem to be safe. But if you become successful on your own merit, you garner attention, you have power, you have influence, right, and you fearless, now you're a problem. So somebody like Dame Dash, you know, the reality of it is the brother is always right? Even when he went on the Breakfast Club, he told everybody about being their own boss. It was all of the pushback, and now this is the most popular thing that people talk about. So it's like the most dangerous thing as well is being ahead of your time, right? Because you won't be celebrated. You often going to be demonized, right? So you ask me about pushback do I get, and I just believe that I'm in time and on time. I try not to be ahead of my time anymore. I try to be present, you know what I mean? So that what I say is relevant right now and how we can increase our efficiency today based on our tools, our resources, and the words that we use. And I think that trying to be ahead of your time is dangerous, and it also comes from seeing something and want to tell everybody about it, right? But you have to know which parts to share, because a person may not believe it because they can't see it. Man, I don't believe that. Or, you know, and we just got a very short-sighted society, especially since we come from poverty. I need to make my next dollar, so whatever you seen over there, I don't need to see it.
This is the information era.
Yeah.
This is the information era, and a lot of people are conveying the same message as you. It's just that people are choosing the messenger that they feel the most comfortable with.
Fact.
And I think Dane is a messenger that a lot of people aren't comfortable with because of the way in which he delivers the message.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But
He a tourist, man. You know, Minister Farrakhan a tourist, Dame Dash is a tourist. I'm a tourist. So the tourists are the greatest truth speakers in the world.
Yeah, people.
Malcolm X a tourist too.
Yeah, people give pushback, but I mean, you know, you look at somebody like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
The way that he chooses his words is a lot different from the way Paul Mooney chose his words. But they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's whatever. It's pretty much whatever you prefer.
Yeah, because Paul Mooney more like a rap song, Dave Chappelle like a symphony. He gonna build the idea in your head and take you along a string of thoughts.
Yeah, he gonna rock you. He gonna rock you to sleep.
Yeah,
and disarm you.
yeah. Well,
You
Paul,
know, because
he
he
right there in your face with a hook.
Dave is witty and charming. He's witty and charming, and he is so non-threatening. And I always use the word disarming, man, because that's the best way that you can describe it. You know, he'll have you laughing at all of the problems in America that we suffer from, and we face. And he figures out a way to get all groups of people together laughing at it the same way and not feeling a way about it. Paul Mooney, you know, he'll have everybody laughing, but some people will be looking like, I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like his whole angle was to make a few people uncomfortable, you know, because sometimes that's necessary too.
It is.
And I think Chappelle just looks at it like, well, you know, that's not what my job is. It's not to make, well, not as of late, but to make people uncomfortable. That wasn't usually his thing.
Right.
But
And I think it requires a very masterful skill to be able to do that as well. And few people have the skill set that Dave Chappelle has.
yes.
So even if they tried, the tack won't come off the same. Mm-hmm. You feel me? So that's one thing I recognize within myself and other people is that communication is one of the highest level skills in the world. You understand me? If not the. And, you know, as musicians or entertainers, as rappers, or your business is communication, right? Like music has the ability to influence people on a subconscious level because they sitting there nodding and agreeing to everything you say, right? And you can become their leader very fast by, you know, ritualizing them in the courts of view, right? The courts of your ego or your message or whatever you want to put out there. And this is something that a person pays for, agrees to accept, right? And celebrate too at the same time. So it's power that a musician has. You manipulate a person's emotions, feelings, thoughts, ideas, the way that they feel about themselves, see the world. Like people literally need music to go through life. Some people would be, you know, commit suicide if they didn't have music.
Yep.
So that responsibility of you saying that, yo, that power's in that field, and then you still deciding to, well, I want to be an artist. Well, then you taking on the power that artists have because of the field of music. You know what I mean? Music pre-exists. Rappers, it pre-exists singers. Music is a stream of frequencies, right? And human beings are susceptible to those frequencies, whether you implant in fear or whether you implant in confidence. So I think that's just a power that, you know, most people ain't about to be thinking on a scientific or mathematical level of these things, but that's the magic you dealing in. You dig, and it can be dark arts, right? Or it can be for the good. And to transition that sort of thought process, because I was looking at your the XXL and they say hip hop's obsession with the Illuminati. I remember when that was just everywhere, right?
Yep.
In high school, all I seen was, you know, those conspiracy theory videos about rappers being a part of the Illuminati, the hand signals, the gestures, the one eye. It was so many different things. And then at one point in time, it kind of just faded away. You did. But I want to know from your perspective, not so much do you think the Illuminati is real and all of that, but do you feel like there's an undercurrent of influence that's dark in hip hop? You understand me? That's prevalent from the beginning, from, you know, all the way back with Kambata to now.
Yes, I do, but I don't subscribe to the ideology that there's some secret group that people get led into, and then now everybody is of the understanding that this is what we're pushing. We're sneaking this dark energy onto. I think there's just a dark energy that comes along with giving somebody a platform to express all of the ills of their lives and all of the ills of their environment. All of the ills associated with the environments. And I also think Black people especially lack the information so much when it comes to finances and success that once somebody reaches a certain level, in order for them to be able to reconcile that in their minds, they have to attribute that to the devil. Is Jay-Z a billionaire? Oh, he the devil. Yeah, Puff the devil. He homosexual. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they doing rituals. And I think a lot of the things that people are talking about, a lot of those things go on in the music business and just in entertainment in general. But I don't think that these guys are being handpicked and pulled into some society in order to be successful. I think Jay-Z made it to billionaire by being extremely good at what he does, staying extremely focused and making a whole lot of right decisions in a row consecutively. And I think the way that we look at billionaire status in this culture, I think is just a skewed perception of what money is. If you had a real understanding of how much money that this culture generates, then you really wouldn't look at somebody being a billionaire like they're unicorns. You know, like I'm looking at it like, man,
it's not
we should have been billion. It should be Ice Cube should have been a billionaire.
I think there are more rappers who are worth billions than it's just not it's like when you can take in the venture capital world, you can take an idea and get $300 million off of it, right? You got hip hop, like let's say Future sold his publishing for 60, 75 million, right? And you know, I seen you did something with Royal Publishing, right, on the Web3 space with Eminem, to where you allow people to buy into yours. If I think about from a business perspective, could Future get the culture to buy into his publishing, and could he exceed that amount of 60 to 75 million to 100 million to 200 million, right? I believe that he could do that. But I also believe that that idea is ahead of his time because the structure is not there, but the value is already there. When I look at Kanye West, I don't have to look at Kanye West's deals. If I look at Jay-Z's publishing on his masters and Kanye's masters and publishing and Beyonce's, the question is how much is that worth, right? If a white man's idea is worth 300 million, right? How is not some of the most prolific music genius, artists, influential people in the world catalog that will probably be listened to the end of time not worth $100 billion, right? But they would never put that number on it because then you would know, right? And I think that there's a lot of rappers who got $100 million, $200 million, $1 billion catalogs, but it's never been a deal done that size that's gonna ever give you true value because they don't never want you to know how much you actually worth.
Yeah, but I mean, to play God's advocate with that, do they know what you're worth? You know, like it's.
But, I mean, in venture capital, you know, they do a 10x, right? If this person it has, you know, for every dollar, it's worth $10, right? If you got this type of influence, if there was ever a white man with the type of influence of Kanye West, product development, genius, being able to engineer, make music, do design, and do all of these different things, he would be the richest man on the planet, right? Very easily. We don't see a white man that talented because you ain't got to be that talented to get the valuations that they get. There's metrics for evaluations, but they don't apply that over to us because they don't want us to know how much we really worth.
Well, there's a metric that they go by in the streaming world and in the publishing on the publishing side, and they basically just look at what it's done up to this point. And they use that as a gauge to say, okay, this is what it will do within the next couple of years. If it's on par with this same, if it's streaming at the same rate over the next couple of years, and maybe they may factor actually being able to license the master for certain things and different things that they can do using their own resources. They have a way that they can kind of guesstimate that. And then that's how they come up with those figures. So I don't necessarily think.
But do you think that model is outdated though, right? Because even if you're still getting your value based on somebody else's model, they can create a model and never actually program the true value.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean,
it's like buying music for $1 when that's a metric set by Apple, right?
Yeah, but just look at the foundation of it, okay? If you own the master and you control the master, that's the most important thing because it doesn't matter what their business model is. Like if I have this, I can sell this shit for whatever I want to sell it for. You can tell me all the tic-tac facts that you want. You can tell me about your business model. You can tell. The greatest thing about the position I'm in is that I own this. and I can sell it whenever I want to. I can get down on money and be like, I'm gonna go make Future sold catalog from this year to that year. So that means he sold a portion of his catalog. Maybe he seen something for 50 mil that he wanted to invest in. Who knows? But that's the beauty of ownership.
No, I definitely believe leverage and strategy is something that's the whole point of ownership in the first place.
I think in our space, I think it's so unique, and that's why it's so hard to compare it to like Silicon Valley and tech.
But I feel like though they don't want us to make those comparisons, but I feel like it's the same thing. It's a product. Right? Yeah. And it's a product that sells every day, and the market size is getting bigger and bigger. Streaming is getting bigger, and then you got new tools.
So what you have to do is you have to place value on what you are. Mm-hmm. And it's the same when you attempt to do a deal with a record label or whoever. There's always going to be a metric that they use to try to negotiate you down. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's to attempt to undervalue you. It's to make you feel like you don't have the leverage, but it's all capitalistic agenda. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's a company trying to put the less money down as possible and make the most profit as possible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's not to cut your wisdom, but if we look at social media gets money from the advertisers, and they decide what split they want to give to the creators, right? So if you on YouTube, it may be, let's say if it's 70-30, right? Or let's say if it's, Twitch, I think they do 50-50. They just cut off the top creators saying, y'all used to get 70-30, now y'all get 50-50, right? The new model of the future is saying that, why don't we that got the product and as the creator just go direct to the advertiser, right? Now, it wasn't possible at first because you got to use somebody else's server, which is their platform. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they get to set their business model and how they want to structure it. The idea of the future or Web3 is saying that this is a decentralized platform. Nobody own it. So now if I can generate billions of impressions, right, then I can now directly partner with an advertiser company and I can get 100% of those advertising dollars, right? And so I believe the future is partnership.
I'm 19 Keys, and this is the future. Block World Order is an organization that's based on blockchain technology. What is blockchain technology? That simple question is enough curiosity in the mind that you should be educated on understanding how the new world is being built out. There are new future of money, future of currencies, learn to earn, pay to earn. All of these new ideas that are emerging every single day that you see in the news. All of these new buzzwords, but yet nobody can break it down simple enough for you and your family to understand. The Block World Order was created to make these difficult things simple, to take the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of this technology and bring it in your household, so that not only you're waiting for things to be built out, but you actually know how to build these things. Nothing is set in stone, but when you have the knowledge, you become the builder of the new world. Well, blockchain technology is going to radically change the infrastructure of the world, from banking to education to community to business. In every field that you could think of, blockchain technology will be disruptive. The key that I want to focus on is how do we utilize blockchain to build wealth? By understanding the technology, understanding the verbiage, understanding the way that we can implement it within our daily lives, how we can build, how we can create jobs, how we can create businesses, how we can implement them within our businesses is going to be key to your success during this time. There is a reason institutional money is pouring in by the billions, working to be the first people to build it out. Developers, they don't have enough of those people that are actually building out the technology. But guess what? Once you understand the tech, you don't have to always be the developer. You can just be the creative. Once you understand how to create with it, then you can also make money. See, I want to give you keys to not only understanding technology, but understanding yourself. One of the most valuable skill sets and assets that you can have is a powerful imagination. Because if you can think it, then it will be. Some people are limited by facts, where others are freed by their mind, just by having a vision. In the Block World Order, you're going to get instructors breaking down these difficult concepts in very simple matters. So therefore, you can start utilizing all that you see in the world so that you can have a benefit. I'm 19 Keys, I've created multiple organizations within my time, and I think that this is the most important one that I've been involved in, because this is the one that gives us a real chance of controlling our future. When we look at the number of jobs that don't exist today, people are out of work, recessions are constantly coming, the market is constantly fluctuating. You need a skill set that is valuable. You need knowledge that makes it so valuable that you can never be poor. Because a mind full of knowledge is a fountain of wealth. As we learn to tap into the technology, we'll also learn to tap into ourselves. We'll learn how to learn. We'll learn how our brain works, how to redesign ourselves, and how to shift our paradigm. So therefore, as we are learning, we're also growing. We are evolving. If there's a new world that is coming in, we also have to become our new self in order to take advantage of being the builders. This is one of the rare times that you get in your life where you see a new technological shift and you have the opportunity for people to teach you and for you to understand it. The only question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to be in the future looking back on the opportunity that you had to be ahead of the rest? Or will you watch this video and go back like the rest of the 99% who are oblivious to understanding? Because I promise you, if you understand what we teach you and you enroll in the BWO, you will be ahead of 99% of the world. I want you to take that serious. The Block World Order is for you. It is for your family. It is the future of wealth, the future of money, the future of skill sets, the future of your new self. Tap in.
Right? Yeah. And so anytime somebody do a deal, it's like if somebody get hired, I always look at it as a two-way thing. Like, I'm hiring you, you hiring me. I can fire you, you can fire me. Mm-hmm. The problem is we've always gave away the leverage. Yeah. Right? To where it's like, I'm signing you a deal and now you got all of the power, and then I'm up to whatever this agreement is in this 60-page contract. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I believe that when a person has ownership, you know, whatever they decide to do with it is right because, you know, they have that ability because they own it. But what I'm saying is that sometimes we don't know what we have is worth because these new models ain't here yet.
And that's when they get you.
Yeah.
That's when they get you. When you don't have an understanding of the value of that master. Mm-hmm. When you're 20 years old and you're going into these companies, you're thinking about how much money they're going to give you.
Right.
You're not thinking that they're taking the asset from you to give you a pile of money.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how valuable that asset is until later, in retrospect. Then you go back and you try to get the master. It's happened to the best of us. Yeah. Michael Jackson, the Beatles. Michael Jackson ended up with some of the Beatles catalog.
Yeah.
This is just an industry standard across the board. It's been that way. Yeah. Like, I've been around since before the 360 deal and after the 360 deal. I remember when they first started saying that 360 deals were standard. I'm like, what the fuck? What? Standard to who?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how they made it standard was they were looking at the landscape and they were looking at how much money rappers were making going out on the road because people didn't used to go to concerts like that.
Right.
Now people want to be involved in every single moment. They don't want to miss nothing. They want to be at the venue with their favorite rapper jumping up and down. Yeah. In one place, yelling. You know what I mean? Like that's people's idea of having fun now, and that's very interesting. Rappers are getting rich on the road, and then record sales were down. Mm-hmm. So the record company said, "Okay, I want to participate in some of that revenue stream too." So what did they do? They got with each other, and they came up with the 360 deal, and all of them presented it. And the only thing that made that standard was the fact that we said, "Okay." Yeah. We didn't have to say, we didn't have to agree to that.
But I mean, if you don't feel like you're in a position to negotiate.
Exactly.
You understand me? So if I don't say, like you said earlier, if I don't say yes to this, I might not get another shot. And you might not be able to do business in this town, right? That's the old mafia.
And you getting told by your lawyer that that's standard.
Right. And your lawyer is connected to them. That's family.
Well, you know, if you got a lawyer who built like a whole practice and a whole empire off of doing industry standard deals, label friendly deals. Yeah. That lawyer is building a rapport and cultivating relationships with all of the biggest lawyers at the biggest companies that exist. Now that makes them powerful.
Yeah.
So, they can kind of look out for you, but they're more so dealing with you on like a curve. They're dealing with you like how they deal with all of their clients. But what they're really doing is they're nurturing their relationships on the label side. So now they're in a position, if they ever get mad at you for anything, they can take your situation off the table.
Yeah.
They can come together and just block your shit.
And it's funny because they, as we go to school, right, you can get a loan for school, right, for education. But you can't get a loan for business in our communities, right? Now we know ways to go develop business credit and things of that nature, but historically we ain't know how to go get no loan for business. And they definitely want to go get you a loan for being a rapper, right? But that's what a lot of those contracts was. It was just a loan so that you can become an entertainer. But
like we made it already, and faking it like we are already rich. Like dudes literally sign a deal and be like, I'm rich now.
Yeah.
I just bought my mama a crib. Like, bought your mama a crib with what? What the fuck? What kind of crib did you just buy your mother?
he got a loan on a loan.
Yeah, Little Headache Medicine just did a deal with, To the Curb Records for $8 million. $8 million, like what for what?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you got a few videos with millions of impressions. What did you give away for that $8 million? Hold on to full ownership of your masters and don't play ball at all. If an opportunity presents itself to where a label is willing to give you, or a company is willing to give you capital for a portion of ownership of your masters, it's up to you to determine how much of this are you willing to give,
Right.
and what is that worth to you. And it all depends on what the play is. You have to know what the play is and what you want out of the situation.
Yeah, I think rappers, just in that, not even just rappers, but R&B, anybody that do music or entertainment, you now get to set the standard, right? So where 360 deals were set by, the entertainment companies, now the entertainers get to say that, no, we will, let's say I give you 10%, right? That's as much as I'm willing to negotiate. Because when I do my study, I see that they got these royalty bonds, right? These streaming royalty bonds where these companies are invested into music. Number one, there's not enough assets out there that's going to give people a return, right? So now they looking at, clever ways to diversify their money in their portfolio. So music is an industry that's consistently growing. I believe something like 30% a year, right? And then you got, Web3 music and all these things that may interrupt, but music is the one thing to where they can say, okay, this is where we know we can get return on our money and this is a safe place to put it. So if you somebody that owns that, you now have to put your mindset in somebody who's trying to maintain a value and increase it. So instead of giving a subprice of, 100% away for a, one-time pay, especially if you don't need it, because it's about leverage. A lot of times a person be like, well, 100 million, I got 100 million, that's going to double. But if you got 100 million, you don't 100% need another 100 million right now, because over time, you're going to have more wealth, right? If you allow what you already have to just grow in value, or unless you have a plan to do something with that money. And once, and a lot of times, instead of in a culture, we tell people like, yo, I'm leveraging this. We just talk shit to the people like, y'all don't know nothing about this business.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't provide a teachable opportunity on how a person could leverage their ownership. So we don't never get to see the full scale of what's the value of ownership. We see people celebrated for deals, but we don't see people celebrated the same way for how they leverage the things that they own. And that's a different culture, because you're going to see the opposite culture. They not selling their shit in the same way, right? Not those who wealthy ain't selling nothing, because they know that they can maintain their asset. It got intrinsic value. It's never go down to zero, and it's going to always give you a return for the rest of forever. So I'm going to keep this in the family, because that's the family's last name right there. So my sons, daughters forever will have an asset to their name when they're born. So I think, we not thinking from that Maslow's pyramid where we at the top where we can think comfortably. We still thinking from like survival, right? And protection of things. So once we switch that mindset, we start controlling the future just by thinking of the future. If you don't think of the future, you can't control it, because you're going to be always asking somebody, yo, what's the future? And then they give you their image, and then you live that out. So my whole thing is always trying to implant something in our imagination, give people a vision of the future of yes, I understand the current climate of things, and this may be right based on our circumstances and conditions. But what about the reality we want to see, right? If you don't start when you young and you have a dream of, being in a position of fame and success, everything is about that vision. Every single day, I got to see this out. But once you get that, now what's your vision for being in this position? Because now you can dream different. Now you can imagine different. Now you got position. Now you have media. Now you got platform attention. So I think a lot of times is reconstructing a new vision based on your new position. You understand me? And I think sometimes we still move from, the person that had the original dream. You can't think from that position anymore. Now you got to think, oh, I'm in a position of wealth and power. I'm in a position of freedom. I'm in a position to make things change. I don't expect everybody to have that level of care or consciousness for society. But for those that do, those are the people that I want to have an effect with the message when they hear it, like, bro, right, I actually can do something with this position I'm in. I actually can create some sort of foundation where we actually have our own agenda. Because if you don't have an agenda, you are 100% going with somebody else's.
Right.
An agenda is a list of items, it's a terms of things that you want to see done out. I was watching the movie Woman King, and I think cinematically the movie was just brilliant. You understand me? The black women they just came off glossing, right? And then, there's a white writer. So anytime, first I watched the movie as a movie viewer, and I'm like, I love that movie. Then I watch it from a critical perspective of who wrote the movie, because I'm watching the writer and the producer's thoughts, right? Because they are narrating their truth and their agenda and their creative eye. And then I'm giving my perspective on whether I like that or agree with it or not, right? So, I had to do my research on the Dahomey people, right? And I'm like, damn, it's crazy how they got us to celebrate slavers. But I didn't think about it as I'm watching the movie. As I'm watching the movie, I'm taking it in. This is incredible. Black women is going to feel confident from this. But I'm like, it's amazing how, once again, they can get us to celebrate our oppressors. You understand me? But now they went to Africa and found our oppressors in blackface, right? And said that we're going to give you these to be our heroes, right? And without us controlling everything from a vertical integration standpoint, from the writing, the production, the studios, we don't have a say-so over what's pushed from somebody else's agenda. We can have a perspective on it. We can judge it. We can like it. We can dislike it, but we can't control it.
So, I mean, what do you think about that? Because we've never been able to control what goes on the mainstream platform.
But we have more power now to control more aspects of it than ever before.
How so?
There was an OG who was talking about civil rights. And he was talking about, it was, I think, during the anniversary of, Boer versus Brown education. And he was explaining, he said, back in my day, we had more righteous demands, but we didn't have any power. We didn't have any resources. He said, this generation got all the power and resources, but no righteous demands, right? So they'd be out there in the streets about all of the things that they want to change, the vision that they want to see for the future. But they had no actual power and control over anything to implement any of that. Right?
I think those resources that we have that we didn't have before, and all of the abilities that we have and all of the knowledge and shit that we have now versus what we had before, is being applied, but it can only be applied outside of that mainstream paradigm. So, like, if you're looking at what Tech9 is doing online, it's beautiful. If you look at a whole bunch of people that's pushing like an amazing line outside of the paradigm. It's just that when the mainstream stage, that big shiny stage, we've never been able to control that, and we're never going to be able to control that.
Why
so I think,
not? Can we build our own stage?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when I say outside of the paradigm, I mean our own stages are being built, but it's something about the mainstream stage that people are just drawn to. They want to be able to do what they're doing there on that stage that they built. They want to be able to do it on that mainstream stage where all the smoke is at. The white hot spot is what I call it. So that the white hot spot is something we've never been able to control that. So I think any energy and effort that gets put toward totally changing a system and a cycle that's been in place forever, any energy put toward that is a waste of time.
So, all right, based on where we at right now, there was somebody that seen the existing system and was like, I can change this shit. You understand me? So I always look at things like the Constitution, the Magna Carta, right? These different things that have been written by families coming together, white families, white men coming together and being like, yo, our intellect is gonna run the world, right? Based on the vision that we have for it. Because what they decided to do was, instead of trying to run a territory, they wanted to run time. What we try to do is we try to have physical might and over proximity and territories. That's how we is in the street. This is my territory. We don't think about how can we run time? How can this be my age, right? So this could easily be our age, but we've never set precedents for it. So the next 100 years, do we want to control that? So once you even start thinking like that, you start building systems around your control and your power, right? So that's a completely different viewpoint of ideas of power than the ones we even have. The type of power we go for, it doesn't have any power in it. You understand me? Because we're always looking for power inside a system that we don't control and own.
You know why that is? Because we always exude power within systems that we don't own. Because a lot of
we
these
power
systems,
them systems.
yeah, a lot of these systems, well, all of these systems are fueled by the natural influence that we have. Look at Facebook. Look at Facebook, Instagram, the community of what I just named. That community is large enough to dictate who wins the election and who doesn't. Like, that community dictates pretty much everything in the world, even more so than the Constitution, because the guidelines, when you sign up for Facebook, the guidelines of the community, it basically says if you go against these guidelines, then we can snip you. Now, automatically, these guidelines don't align with the Constitution. They don't. You can't use in other words, you can't use the Constitution to hold the Facebook community accountable for doing anything that violates your rights, your freedom of
If
speech.
it's unconstitutional, you can't. Look at Texas, what they just passed is saying that the Facebook and social media companies can't ban people for their perspective, right? In the way that they speak. Like, every state is its own government, right? But then you have the Constitution that all states are supposed to abide by. The Constitution is the ultimate law. Everybody don't try to use the Constitution when they like, even if somebody go to a court case, you know, you can utilize constitutional law to supersede any other law, right? You got the Supreme Court, Pennsylvania, and then you have the other one. And those are the highest laws in the land. And they go based on the Constitution when you get up there. So what happens is we don't often take it to the highest point, right? Because we don't often you see the Constitution as something that we can utilize to defend our rights.
So if you look at somebody like Lil Bootsy, right? They took his Instagram page. What do you do if you Lil Bootsy? Why should they be able to take his Instagram page?
Because they own it. But
Exactly.
he agreed to it, but it
He
wasn't
agreed to it.
unconstitutional what they did.
That's exactly what the record industry is. That's exactly what Facebook is. It's something that's built already. It was never meant to serve you.
Right.
Ever. So the more time that Lil Bootsy spends trying to convince Instagram to give him his shit back is the more time spent away from building outside of Instagram.
I agree.
Because he can apply that same influence. He's a powerful black man. He just may not be fully aware of how powerful he is. And Instagram and Facebook is designed to keep you feeling that way. You know what I mean? Like, and as long as we're operating within the systems that other people created, and those communities are meant to serve all the people. You know what I'm saying? And we're the minority, so we automatically are gonna come out on the receiving end and the losing end of a lot of things that aren't really that fair. So I think the proper way to look at it is to utilize these platforms, knowing what you're getting yourself into. Like the mainstream stage, the mainstream platforms, you have to figure out a way to play the game on those platforms because you're in their house. They're not influential platforms. It's just a big shiny stage that takes what you're doing and places it in front of everybody.
That I agree with.
You know what I mean? They're not. People look at these platforms like they're dictating, like you have to rap about this and you rap about whatever you want to rap about. Just understand that you have to figure out a way to make yourself culturally accepted enough to stand on these stages.
Yeah, I mean, shit. That goes towards creating your own stage, right? because I know for a fact that, you know, if you take any rapper right now that's hot, that has cultural influence, that they can easily move people, and you tell them, boom, here's my stage over here. You already know the rappers. You already know how the deal structure is. So you go directly call them, have those conversations. Listen, we go do our own festival. Let's go compete with the festivals because they kick rappers off for these reasons and those reasons, and we don't agree to that, right? So what we saying is our new structure and our new standards or rules that, you know, regardless of what you got going on, if it's not a legal situation or something that we find to be so disparaging and where we can't stand next to you, you can get on these stages, right? And we can even, you know, have a consortium where we give you a cut of everything that we do. Like, you can basically just create your own rules. The problem is having people that kick down that door and get it started. The reason white people get the benefit that they get the benefit is because they actually started the business. It's the only difference. They built the stage. It's the only difference. We seen thing with Travis Scott. He built his own stages, and I feel like they feared that fact that he was able to create his own festivals, right? Where he was becoming like a Disneyland over there, where he can easily, you know, decide to have a concert and he got all these people showing up and he has all the power. Anytime you realize you the power, you become a threat because now they can't use you. Well, if you don't need me, well, then I don't need you, right? And so they say, well, we got to figure out a way to either make an example of this type of business so that everybody don't try to look at this as a new archetype, as a new standard, because then that threatens billions of dollars. And there's no industry in the world, I don't care if it's solar plants or solar power contracts, I don't care if it's trucking, airplanes, whatever it is, anytime it deals with tens of millions to hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, they would do anything to maintain that money flow.
Yeah,
you can't disrupt nobody's money without consequences.
That's capitalism at its finest. But I mean, these guys that you're speaking about, like Travis Scott, he's very, very, very in bed with the corporations. You know, he's like the face of like McDonald's burgers and shit.
Well, I
you
was
know
just using him because he has that power, like just in the sense that he created a festival around his own likeness.
Yeah, there's
right.
There's plenty of guys that, like Tyler the Creator and them. They have one. Pharrell has one.
Yeah, but I don't think none of them was as big as Travis Scott's.
I disagree. You talking about the festivals?
Yeah, them was different. I don't remember. I don't remember Pharrell's and in them festivals, so I can't really speak on.
Yeah,
what
I think
theirs
Pharrell
were.
and them just started, but Camp Flog, no. Tyler.
Oh yeah, I remember when they did that.
Yeah, Tyler and them festival was pretty.
But he
pretty
did
big.
have the Kardashians behind him, so.
Yeah, that's another
it's a
thing too.
different
You know, like getting in bed with the Kardashians. You know, like he's done a beautiful job at leveraging his brand, using his brand as leverage to do these amazing deals with these big ass corporations.
But like I said, if you take, right, so that's a whole nother business, right? So like just having a business to where you can set up the sound, you can get the city ordinances, you can get the contracts. I think that's probably the most technical side people don't want to get involved in because you rather just show up and get a check. The thing in our culture is we don't like to create systems. We got all the brilliance in the world, but we don't like to create systems. So you can take somebody that is nowhere near as genius and got all of the charisma that know how to communicate and speak, and they can still make more money than you because they know how to create a system.
I think Jay-Z is a good example of somebody who's been attempting. He's not only attempted, but he's been successful at creating systems. Tidal is one of them. But the biggest task is getting our people to get on board and to follow. And I think a lot of people, and I hate to say this, and I say it respectfully, but I think a lot of people don't use Tidal just because it's Jay-Z. You know what I mean? So, I mean, look how easy it is for Apple as a system. Look how easy it is for Spotify as a system, because we just unconsciously just subscribe to those platforms like it's nothing. But when it's Tidal, it's never viewed as a system. It's always going to be that little thought in your mind that this is Jay-Z shit. You know what I mean? So automatically, he's under all the scrutiny. You asking all the questions about everything that is Tidal that you wouldn't be willing to ask about Spotify and Apple Music. And that's what makes it damn near impossible for Tidal to compete, you know, with those other streaming platforms.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's where technology updates come in, because Tidal as a Web3 platform, right? Because now they got this new thing with Web3 artists and music where, like what you're doing with the royalty and the publishing, giving people a percentage. That's a completely different game where the fans get the benefit from the music that they listen to. So they're not just a fan, they become an investor, right? And I think that these things are more exciting for people because now you're not just switching platform, you jumping into a whole new wave, right? A whole new way to, they got things called social tokens where they give out these people tokens and now you get access to a certain level of music, to meet and greets like Chris Brown doing for the $1,000. Like this is way for I feel like people to build out their communities because communities is more important than anything right now.
Anything.
Right? You know, this topic brings me to Eminem, right? Because I believe Eminem has he has the greatest community in hip hop, right? Where it assures his success because he speaks to his community, and by community I'm talking about his fan base.
The
Right?
stands.
I know we use community as like, you know, black people, but I'm talking about actual fans.
Fan base.
So it's like when he puts out a song, it's gonna guarantee a level of success because he has been consistent with his community this whole entire time. Where he's not worried about competing with all of hip hop. Right now, he's satisfying his fan base. Right?
So when you say success, you mean from a numbers perspective?
Yeah,
You mean
from a numbers
logistically? Okay.
So, you know, I said before, you know, matter of fact, I remember you retweeted something, you posted it when I talked about Drake. And that one went viral. I wasn't expecting it to.
Which one?
I said that it was just after his, not this album, but the last album came out. And I was like, you know, Drake never ever said something conscious. It was something around that about it. Somebody had said some tweet under it. There was a lot of funny ones. I ain't gonna lie, Black Twitter, music Twitter is different. And you had posted that one up. I was dying laughing, but you know, I didn't have no expectation of it, but it's just an observation, right? I like making observations and sharing them with the world. But anyway, with Eminem, I had recently tweeted that Big Sean, what did I say exactly? I said Big Sean I think I said he makes better music than Eminem. Or I might have said a better artist, I'm not sure. But I put a qualifying statement in the caption that I'm saying in the terms of making music, not rapping. Right? Because I think with Eminem, the thing is ain't nobody gonna out-rap Eminem. Right? I look at, you got like Wayne, you got like Eminem, is like, I feel like this generation to look at is like two of the top rappers ever to exist, right? To even imagine being a rapper. And that's based on his skill set, right? But when it comes to music that the culture listen to, you are going to have more recent hits of Big Sean in your head than Eminem, right? But when it comes to, and to wrap that point up, because I want to know your thought process on that, but when it comes to being able to house a fan base, I don't think that no other artist has done it as successful as Eminem. Because even while Drake maintains his success, Eminem has his community over here that nobody is ciphering from at all. His community may still listen to everybody else, but their loyalty is over here. They're not comparing to say Eminem is now second, he's third, he's fourth, he's fifth. He's just Eminem, right? So my question is, number one, what have you learned from Eminem, or have you, as far as his ability to maintain that sort of base? Because I feel like that's the basis of how all rappers should build their communities going forward. And then number two, do you think Big Sean makes better music than Eminem?
Okay, let's go to let's go to the beginning of the question.
Yeah.
Eminem's ability to be able to connect to his fan base is his ability to be able to do that is so unprecedented. And it all starts, I was there from the beginning. It all starts with somebody being courageous enough to be vulnerable and to be transparent and to tell a story that we hadn't heard yet in hip hop, and be okay with however people feel about it. I think just the fact that he raps so well, and then he told a story that we had never heard before, and he made hit records while doing it. I think it just resonated with people in a way that has transcended from generation to generation to generation. I think now, and nobody's ever done it like that, ever. So I think now, where we are now and where he is now, and where he is as a man, he's doing just what he wants to do now. He wants to just out-rap people now. He's not necessarily focused on trying to make the biggest hits in the world. You know what I mean? So I think the music that he's making now is just a reflection of that, and I think that the way that he chooses to compete is what brings him fulfillment. And I think that that's what the realm of art is about. It's impossible for him to compete with Big Sean. It's like you talking about a total different generation. Marshall isn't supposed to be able to resonate. He's not supposed to be able to think the thought that connects to the 17, 18-year-old before something that comes out of Big Sean's mind. Big Sean has his finger on the pulse of current culture in a way that Marshall it would be impossible for him to have his finger on the pulse in the same way. He lives a completely different life. It's been a completely different journey, you know. So
I seen he said it was Jordan Lucas, Kendrick, and Cole. I think he said is his only competition.
well, I didn't see that interview, but I did see that headline. Just based off of the conversation that I have with him, we talk about this kind of thing all the time. That's not something that he would really say. You know what I mean? But
I see Jordan Lucas posted it.
yeah, but I mean, he speaks very highly of everybody you just said. That's for sure. But that's my only competition part. I don't know. I've never heard him say no shit like that. But I know he speaks just as highly as Sean. You know what I mean? Like he thinks of Sean the same way.
Do you think Big Sean underrated? I think he underrated.
As a lyricist, hell yeah.
Yeah.
As a lyricist, hell yeah. But I mean, I think people can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You know what I mean? And I think they associate his brand with young and commercial. Okay. Because he's very marketable. He's a superstar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he's a lyrical one. And people aren't used to necessarily seeing that. And he comes from Detroit, and he doesn't rap like the Detroit guys now that are kind of like they holding the flag right now.
Yeah.
They running the world. You know, the world is biting their style. Sean don't come from that. Sean went to Cass Tech. He vibed off many types of things. He vibed off Eminem. He comes with flows. He's a practitioner rapper. You know what I mean? These guys are hustlers. They're motivators.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think
Detroit
that's
got
one.
his own sound.
Yeah, that's one of the
Dope.
things that makes us strong. But Sean, the way that he does it, he was meant to be a superstar. He was meant to be up under somebody like Kanye. Kanye was the perfect person to give him tutelage. You know what I mean? Who makes better music between him and Eminem? That's super subjective, and that's like one of the fun things about this shit.
That's the fun thing about hip hop, though.
Yeah,
it's
like
the conversations,
those
and debates and
conversations,
arguments around it.
Those conversations are fun, and I'm sure that post gave people something to talk about for days and days and days and days.
That's all I wanted to do anyway.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's like the way that they talk about Marshall now is like, you know, nobody listens, nobody in the hood listens to that shit. I think that's funny because I was around in the beginning. I was right there next to him when he got his first week number. I was right there next to him when he did My Name Is. I was right there. I was at the first show at Tramps. I was on stage with him when the head programmer from MTV came into the dressing room and told him, "You're gonna get tired of seeing your video on MTV." You know what I mean? Like I was there when he dyed his hair. It wasn't a publicity stunt. He was mad at his girl, and then he went in the bathroom and locked himself in there for a long ass time. And I was like, "Man, you all right in there?" And when he came out, his hair was orange, but it was one of his fits of rage. And
That was the Slim Shady birth?
Yeah, that wasn't the birth of Slim Shady, but that was the birth of the Slim Shady image. When I met him, he was a kind of fat. You know, he used to wear these little dad hats like real low, and he used to have these little ugly glasses that he used to wear, and he used to have them down over his nose like that, and he had no style.
Yeah.
All he did was rap. He was a rapping machine, and he was always nice, and he was always nicer than everybody. Always. There never was
y'all back and forth?
What, like on some competitive?
Yeah.
Not anything other than friendly competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, man, like when I started hanging around him, and this is contrary to popular belief, like he he taught me everything that I know in terms of the technical aspects of lyricism. Like he's the first person to break down to me the concept of syllables and syllable usage and making them connect, making them match, and just song structure. Like he taught me so many things, and I don't know how he knew all of this shit. And he knew it before Dr. Dre.
That reminds me of like Kobe, right? 'Cause Kobe was mathematical with everything that he did. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't just look at basketball; he looked at the science of it in every aspect. So it's like when Eminem, you imagine it's just like a talent, a skill he born with. I don't think a lot of people equate the skill set of like the study and the science of rap when we talk Eminem a lot. And I think that's probably that could be a part of the reason he don't get his flowers.
He a student. And I don't think and I say this respectfully, but the white guys that came after him, you'd never be able to compare them to him.
No,
because
he had too many of
there's some great ones. There's some great ones. There's some just extremely talented, but they're all derivatives of him.
Yeah, that's a fact.
He is a derivative of Tretch, Coogee Rap, Nas, AZ,
Yeah.
Souls of Mischief. You know what I mean? He's a student of that. Like he fell in love with the culture the same way we fell in love with the culture. And he wasn't the first authentic white rapper. There were other white rappers who were authentic, but he was the first one to do it on that level and have an effect on the culture because he came out as himself. He didn't come out like, yo, God, yo, I'm a Muslim too. I hang with the 5%ers, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there was a time where he wasn't all the way comfortable in his skin. There was a time when he had the part in his hair with the big baggy jeans with the rips in them, with the airbrush on them, and that's when he used to get bullied. Walking on the east side, you know what I'm saying, over there by Osborne, walking around over there looking like that. Niggas was looking at him like, who is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where the bullying came from.
Yeah.
But him becoming comfortable in his skin and like, I'm on the phone with him and he not like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It got to a point where he was just like, yo, what's up? He just started talking like himself. He just started acting like a white boy, but a cool one. And it wasn't like, yo, I'm from the hood. I'm the trailer park. When have we heard that before?
Nowhere.
And his relationship with his mother, we couldn't even identify with that. And we all were intrigued by it. And then I seen the reaction. I seen how shit was in Detroit. Like all of those shows that he was doing, I was on stage with him and everybody was there. I knew everybody. He may not have known everybody, but I knew everybody. Proof knew everybody. Everybody was there. Everybody was listening. Everybody referred to him as the white boy. Songs all over the radio everywhere you went. Stadiums everywhere. Everybody was there. Like shit, we be at his listening party, his first listening party in New York. We standing in the VIP and people are just showing up. It wasn't the internet back then. He didn't have access to the other celebrities to be able to say, I'm inviting you. They were just showing up. We sitting in the VIP. Aaliyah walks up, greets him, says beautiful things to him. They hug, take pictures. She walk away. Missy walks up, says beautiful things. Hove walks up. Come on, man. Do that sound like somebody who only affected the stands?
I don't think that that's an argument that Eminem didn't have any effect in the culture as far as having black fans. Because anybody I talk to, I think it's more of a current conversation as far as does he still have an effect, right, in the culture as far as black fans.
Yeah, well, that's I guess that's a valid question. But does he need to have an effect on black? He's not black.
Apparently, well, it's hip hop. So when we think hip hop, we equate hip hop to black.
Yeah,
right?
but we don't do that to Jack Harlow. We don't do that to Yellow Wolf. He is straight up racist.
Ran so Jack Harlow could walk.
Yeah, and it's like
you say.
And it's like these guys, man, like Jack Harlow is great to me. Shout out to Drama, that's my guy. Jack Harlow is he's slick as fuck.
But then Eminem came in the time of like 50 and Dre, so he was immersed in it. You know what I'm saying? Like between beefs with Ja.
Jack Harlow is immersed in it, just in his way.
But not in near as far as importance of, you got 8 Mile, Then you had everything that was going with Dre and G Unit, and then you got Eminem there in the middle of that. Then you got like whole verses. Jack Harlow can't compare to how in depth Eminem was embedded into the culture in very important moments and at very important times. You understand me? Like just the verse of, what's the song with him and Jay?
Renegade.
Renegade. That verse right there solidified him in hip hop in a way where people won't even get the opportunity again to do shit like that. You understand me? Being in the middle of 50 beef with Jai and then having verses on those songs, that ain't shit that even Jack Harlow could do today, right? You can't even get in the middle of something like that anymore, right? So I feel like, and then just having that back and forth with Dr. Dre, making those hits with him, that's just a different time in the culture. That was part of the engineering and the shaping of the culture that we live in today.
Yeah, and I also think I'm glad you said all that shit, so I ain't had to say it. But I think just us as men, we have an effect on the culture a certain way because we're speaking directly to the youth as the youth. I think those of us who have been afforded the luxury of having longevity, we get to a point where we become adults. We become adults speaking to the youth. And automatically our words don't resonate the same, especially if we're not pandering to the every like of the youth. I think somebody like Jay-Z, his words resonate so well because his ability to be able to read the room and just how of culture he is, he just knows the cool shit to say, the right shit to say at the right time. Somebody like Eminem, he's an addict like myself. He's a hip hop lover and historian. He likes it the way that he likes it, and the way that he does it is for his fulfillment. Now, the way that he does it and for his fulfillment, that may not always translate into resonating with what the youth think is cool. You know what I mean? So I don't think that he's always thinking about that. I think he would love for everything that he does to resonate how it resonated when he was running around out here on drugs and he was like out in the streets.
Yeah.
You literally talking about somebody who can't go anywhere because he's too famous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's living a completely different life. And, like shit has evolved in a different direction. The complexities of his raps aren't as important as they were back in the day to certain people.
Right.
So I think what's happening now is a lot of people are looking at how they used to feel about Marshall and they're questioning themselves. They're questioning rather, was I just tripping? Was I just a kid? Like, was I following some garbage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's
Now the hits is hits. The songs you go back today, they still, you know what I'm saying? Like I was listening to some Eminem on the way here, and you got to make that ugly face.
Yeah, it's like when you look at to finish the point I was making, when you look at the way that the guys who have longevity have grown and their words don't have the same impact that they used to have, I think what people are doing is they're not putting Marshall in that category because he's white.
Yeah,
so it's
that
like
part of it too.
It's automatically like, well, people don't like you how much they used to like. Well, people don't like Jay-Z the same way that they used to
but
like.
Jay-Z still is able to. Jay-Z can do stuff that nobody else can do, and the way that he can maintain relevancy and speak to the culture, and the things that he say makes him. You still feel like he got a pulse on the culture. It's up to
But
date,
look at the scrutiny that he's under because he's Jay-Z from the youth.
Yeah.
Look how many.
But that's the blessing. If nobody talking about you ain't in the conversation.
Yes, and that's how I look at Marshall. It's a blessing, bro. It's a blessing. Bust it down. That's your right as a fan. That's the fun part. Bust it down. Yo, the hood ain't listening to that shit. It's a fun conversation to have. Game made a 10-minute record about it. It's a fun thing to do, But at the end of the day, none of this shit determines legacy. His legacy is just what it is, bro.
Yeah, no, he set as far as legacy.
It's like these are issues that he doesn't really have to care about. But I mean, I think it's admirable that he even cares. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like,
I think what we want, what all rappers, we love to nudge rappers so that they can do something else. You know
so they could do something that you want them to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. That's
comes
the fan input for that reason.
Yeah,
like,
that's part of it, man.
It's like if somebody was like the whole. I imagine Hov would want to make an even better verse than God did now, right? Because now the conversation is people saying it's his best verse, whether, real hip hop heads or Jay-Z heads believe it. But Jay-Z, to me, seems like the type of person, whether he's actively caring about it, I think it's a passive thing. When he get in there, shit, I want to say something else that had that kind of impact. You feel me? But I think that that's necessary because that's part of the youth of hip hop. You understand me? Still caring, still making moments. Whether your intent is the same when you was younger, where it's like ego based, what I think it becomes more, it's like, yo, I can do it, why not do it?
Yeah, this is how I look at art, especially in the realm of evolution. Jay-Z and Eminem both had times in their career where they had something to say. And I have to say this. I have to get this off because this is a part of my story and this is what defines me. Those moments are not supposed to be toppable. To me, that's when you're at the height of your creativity. That's when you're at the height of your artistry. Then you develop and you move on past the white hot spot into a different road. Jay-Z, there's things that he does outside of rapping that are more impactful and beneficial to the culture. Those contributions are more beneficial to the culture than if he stopped doing that and started focusing on giving you albums again.
Right. But then he raps about it,
Yeah,
which makes
and
it another toppable moment.
He's already given us some of the greatest moments as far as albums and as far as lyricism in the history of hip hop. It's going to go down in history forever. So has Marshall. So now, the way that I look at these guys is musically, they're not beholden to that anymore. You know what I mean? So now, as creators, some guys may just want to go back to that 14-year-old kid who just wanted to just lyrically kill shit without you expecting them to change the world every time that they put something out. And it's cool to have an opinion. That's cool too. But at the end of the day, I always say the same thing. We don't work for you. We're not an employee of the people. Contrary to belief, man, this is not Burger King. This is not, you don't get it your way. You know what I mean? Like, Jay-Z learned a lot about himself through the realm of art. So did Marshall. He came into his own. The first time that he ever felt accepted, the first time he's ever heard anything good about himself. Man never had a father, didn't know his father. His mom had issues, you know what I'm saying? Like, they had a strange relationship. He never felt accepted until he got on that stage. And now he feel like, damn, I actually got a place in this shit. And it was something that he already had immersed himself in because he felt great following it. So to be able to actually do it and then now be held to a standard and elevated up above us and praised, you know what I'm saying? Like that's.
But how do you see yourself in that? Because, you've written for Dre, you've written for a multitude and done a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and your lyrical capabilities is Mount Rushmore as well, right? So do you feel like when you have the gods like Jay and Ye and M and Wayne that, then you got people like Jadakiss that just got more of his flowers, and I think properly got his flowers on that Versus stage, right? And I think sometimes there has to be a moment that's like, oh, this is what we not paying attention to. This is what we not appreciating. So do you feel like, you've had that moment, or you gonna have that moment where people can properly see the light of your talent? Or do you feel like it already is already there?
I think the people who follow it understand that, or come to a place where they identify me as somebody who's very good at what I do in terms of talent and skill. But I also am of the belief that people don't buy music because of that. There's some people who listen to Andre 3000 and are in awe of his technical ability, and that's it. But there's a lot of people who take much more away from it than that. And I think it's everything. Everything matters. Everything about Andre 3000 matters, not just his technical ability. So there was a time in hip hop where it was like, okay, he's the best rapper, so he's number one. We're going to buy that. We're going to follow that. You know what I mean? And it was an easy order to cover at that time. Now that hip hop has evolved so much there's so much more that goes into this shit than just, artistic ability. You can be amazing at what you do and people will go, ooh, ah. But it's the little intangibles that makes it resonate with people in a way where they want to keep listening to it over and over and over again. Now you're talking about something that's probably a little more spiritual than anything, because when you think about the effect that classic music has on people, Thriller, you can't really explain it. You just understand.
Yeah,
it's understood.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it classic. You're not supposed to be able to duplicate it. So the whole theory that I want you to make another Thriller, Michael Jackson, stop making this kind of music, that's wishful thinking, bro. That's it's debunked already. Reasonable Doubt can never be done again. Illmatic can never be done again. So like I have people tell me, man, just go back to Boom Royce. You telling me to digress. That's what you're telling me to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand that whatever Boom was to you, however that resonated with you at that time in your life, you may just want to relive those moments in your life. It's not my job to provide that for you. The best I can say is just go back and listen to Boom. You know what I mean? But it's not my job to go into the studio and try to recreate something that I created when I was a child. I'm just in a different place. And, just like Boom wasn't for everybody back then, what I'm doing now isn't for everybody. So, I think that's the great thing about music. You can, however it connects to you, it resonates with you. It's your right to listen to it however you choose to. I think now you can straight up curate your whole life. You don't have to listen to anything that you don't want to hear. Like marketing, even marketing, something as powerful as marketing can't cut through. If you just decide, I'm riding in my car, I'm listening to not even satellite radio, I'm listening to my playlist. I'm in the gym, I got my earbuds in, I'm listening to my playlist. You know what I mean? If I'm in the car with my girl and she listening to her music, shit, I can put in my earbuds. I don't have to hear that shit if I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? So what's going to make somebody like you? It has to be something more grand and more expansive than just how well you can rap.
Yeah. I look at somebody like Toby. You got LaRussell. You got Simba. Somebody like yourself. I feel like these are different type of characters that can have high level success, right? It's not gangster rap, but these are men. They present themselves as men, right? I think it's the quality of there's some masculinity, there's some will there, and they still come from the streets, but not over embellishing the environment, right? But saying that no, I'm a man, I'm stand on mine, I'm gonna present myself as who I am, and I think masculinity in hip hop has been decreasing over the years. But now I'm starting to see like the people that I just mentioned, not only because they talented, but they put great production behind what they do. And I think that that's more important than anything right now is production. But what do you think about the state of masculinity in hip hop? And this is kind of the last thing I want to talk to you about. Just because I feel like a lot of the problems that we have in hip hop is just the lack of masculinity. You understand me? The lack of principles, morals, accountability, integrity, all of those different things, it would be a code of manhood. You understand me? Rites of passage, a way of thinking. But without masculinity, it's impossible to hold boys up to that standard.
I agree with that. But I also understand the younger generation of today, they're very powerful. They're very powerful, but I don't think that they have a full understanding of the power that they have. And I think that where they are mentally is their self-expression supersedes everything right now. So a lot of times that self-expression, throwing on a dress or doing something that caters to the LGBTQ community, because it goes against and gives pushback to what the social construct used to be. A lot of things there's attempts to rewrite a lot of things. There's attempts to make people rethink the way that they've been thinking. And I think a lot of foundational things that affect our community and that give strength to our community, like masculinity, I think sometimes takes a hit because of the creative roll of the dice that are being taken. You know what I mean? The creative risks that are being taken. a lot of times those creative risks, they spill over into foundational things that never should be tampered with. You know what I mean? Like, you should be able to take those same risks and it not affect the community in that way. But it only affects the people, it only affects the community to the people who are aware of these effects. There's a lot of people, because of the internet, that are seeing the community, the culture, and the world through the microwave door that is their environment, you know? So I think we got to give these guys a little bit of room to grow into a way of thinking to where they can understand the effects that their moves have on everything, because up until that point, they just don't realize what their power is. And I think that's a conversation that needs to always be had, but it's one of those that we got to be careful how we address it, how we discuss it. We got to be real careful, because you don't want to stunt somebody's growth who could be the next Kanye West. You don't want to get them second guessing everything that they do. So it's like the way that it gets addressed, it can't fall into the young heads versus the old heads conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to put things into that category, because they're almost going into it expecting it to be that. You know, so when it gets to that point, I always look to the people with the most wisdom, the older heads, you know, the funk flexes, whoever. I want to hold us to a standard to make sure that that there's not an information disconnect there, and give the youngins leeway to do stupid shit. You know what I mean? And then utilize those moments as teachable moments, as opposed to push back for everything and, you know, my way of doing things versus your way of doing things, and me making you feel like I'm coming from a place of judgment because what you're doing is not like how we used to do it. There's so many different conversations within the conversation about letting this shit evolve. There's a lot of people in New York who, you know, like, because they're from New York and they know that this is where hip hop originated, they're from New York and they have like this entitlement, and sometimes the way that that's conveyed, it comes off like, yeah, we don't want it to change. We want it to stay exactly like this, and we want it to stay exactly like that. And I get where they're coming from, but I just don't think that hip hop is one of those things that could ever stay the same way for too long a period of time. I think we should always be open to keep our minds open to the possibilities and how much it can expand and evolve. And especially when it's being done in a way that you're not accustomed to seeing, that should be like a case study for you. Like, I love when I don't understand something. Like, I love like when niggas start with rapping off beat and shit. I'm like, that's my biggest case study right now, because it's like niggas rapping off beat. That's like watching an NBA game and a nigga be like, yo, I ain't dribbling no more. Like, certain things you shouldn't be able to even tamper with. So that's intriguing. That's amazing to me. So I remember having a conversation with Cole about this, and he was like, yo, man, like, I remember just beating myself in the head with that shit until I finally understood it. Because the worst possible place that we could be in is older dudes trying to recreate that same thing, knowing they don't understand it, and doing what their interpretation of that thing is. Yeah. And it'd be the worst shit that you ever fucking heard. You have to understand it in order to be able to speak to it or speak on it. Because other than that, you're just speaking from your experiences. And it's going to just sound like judgment, because you're basically just saying that ain't what I do, so fuck that. You know what I mean? But it's like, yo, it's much bigger than just you. You know what I mean? Like, they're enjoying something. I want to figure out why. And I'm intrigued by that. That's why, you know, my son and all his friends, they be around, and the shit that they like, I'm always asking them questions, because it's amazing to me. Like, rap is going through so much. Like, it's cultural. It's kids from different countries who have like a cultural impact, who people are following. The first time I heard the term meme rap, I was like, what the fuck is meme rap? Oh, that's when, you know, they not really that serious about rapping. It's more funny. I'm like, wow. So people are using hip hop to be entertained in many different ways. I remember when you had to be good at rapping in order for people to enjoy it. Now, I remember when you had to be a tough guy.
That's a fact.
Now it's like, nigga, you better be careful how you be a tough guy if you're gonna be a tough guy, because people can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And I think the most open-minded individuals are the most successful individuals, and I think that those are the ones who should be the most focused on the responsibility that comes along with having a platform.
I can agree with that.
And gatekeepers. I think we're too afraid to step into the role of being gatekeepers. There has to be order. There has to be order. It's too many people. It's too many people coming into the culture, stepping on it and keeping it pushing, misappropriating it, and we spending too much time focusing on shit that doesn't matter. Focusing on people like Eminem. He's the only one who you shouldn't be talking about. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you picked the only one. The only one who came in this motherfucker, contributed and stayed. Never sold you a rock song. Never did anything, never has done anything that you can look at sideways and be like, yo, man, and it's like, bruh, y'all motherfuckers don't have nothing to say about nobody, and y'all still talking about this man trying to figure out a way to make him that. He's not that, bruh. It's just not gonna happen. Yeah. And it's to the point now where I stopped defending him because I'm a coon when I defend him. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look at him speaking for Eminem again. I'm not speaking for him. I just know you're not gonna hear him say shit about it. You know what I'm saying? So I thought I was giving you some, I thought I was placing some perspective on it for you. You know what I mean?
I do think that the creative community just has to be careful of being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because of the want to and need to express yourself. It's like they say in controlling a crowd, the easiest to control in a crowd is the most emotional, and the crowd is usually like a child or a woman, right? Mm-hmm. And so, meaning that, lyricism is like logic. Mood music is feeling and emotion. Mm-hmm. And this new generation is a reflection of where we are in society, a generation that don't really think, they feel. Mm-hmm. You understand me? And so what we see is a reflection of those feelings, but those feelings can be easily manipulated and swayed in whatever direction of who's paying them, or what's hot, or what society says is a trend, or what somebody has as an agenda. So I think that, when the expression is genuine to who they really are in their core, and it's not based on, them being manipulated and being used. Because one thing I know is that anything that can be used for power will be used for power.
Of course.
Whether it's the TV, whether it's the iPhone, whether it's music. And music has been something that has been utilized by the powers that be since the beginning of time, to rile the people up, to make them feel a certain way, to embed messages in it. So I think that the creative community has to, have a level of consciousness, about how they're using themselves or how they're being used. And I think just that extra thought, right, becomes enough to start filtering some of the BS, right? And then I think that we start to see, because what you're talking about is a person going through a natural process of growth, having reflection and maturity, and whether that's a stage or a cycle or whether that's them, you get to see that develop over time.
If they can last long enough.
If they can last long enough. Mm-hmm. And so some people, they're not in it to last. I'm going to make $1, I'm going to leverage this, and I'm going to go do something else, because the new generation thinks in completely different ways, because we got different options on how you can leverage having a hit song, right? Mm-hmm. Or just a moment. And so, but you have to understand the responsibility you have when you use this thing called music. Mm-hmm. It has the power to shape minds. It has the power to do good. It got the power to do what a person can consider bad.
Let me ask you this question.
To bad.
The people that you're explaining who clearly are just coming in real quick for a check.
Yeah.
Somebody with wisdom can look at them and pretty much tell that they're not going to be around for that long. How much of what they're doing do we pay attention to?
Not as much, because they influenced by whoever's successful. Mm-hmm. You understand me? So they follow the cultural trends and they try to get in for a second and get a couple bucket of dollars, or get a quick look of attention. Mm-hmm. So if gangster rap is hot, man, shit, I'm about to go in there and rap gangster real quick. Mean rap is hot, I'm about to go in there and rap this. Funny rap, I'm about to lyrical, I'm gonna do this. Mm-hmm. It's the gatekeepers, those who are successful, those who amass more light. They have the ability to set the tone and they have more powerful. The people that come in, fly by day, they may go viral for a moment and they just a blinker in time. They don't have any real influence because it's not consistent enough to dominate any frequencies.
Right.
It's those who have that ability to change the frequency of music. And there's a few people right now that if they all decided, we want to change the sound of music. We want to change the sound of rap. They have so much considerable influence right now. And it ain't got to be so drastic that it's like, yo, we did a 360. I'm saying just small tweaks. They can do that, right? So those are the people who have more of the power. And they already a lot of times in positions of comfort, so they don't have to do it for, the societal trends because, they can play with reality in different ways. So those are the ones who got the power and they got more responsibility.
You speaking about creators now, right?
Yeah.
Give me one example of somebody you feel has that ability.
Not just one person, a collective. So let's say like you got women, you got, of course you got to go with the young women, then you got to go with like Nicki and Cardi B, right? They have an influential power on the younger women that come under them because their music set, the tone for the things that they rap about, what's successful, what can be sold, right? Things of that nature. It sets the trends. Then you got people, of course, like Drake, right? Drake sets all kind of trends all the time. He connects with different sounds, different rappers, and when he puts them on his page or he does a collaboration with them, now that's a new, trend inside the culture, a new sound inside the culture, right? And when you take people like that, and there's many more other people that we have in the culture, whether some haven't been there that long and some are newer, but what I'm saying is once you start hearing the new sound, right? Like Waka Flocka was one of the people that pioneered some of that sound where it was, more dumb rap, right? It was just music. We just turned up. He didn't know what type of cultural influence he was going to have, I'm sure, when he stepped into that studio, right? But then you have people like Gucci Mane that was opening the way for him, right? But once you now at this position where you understand, like you talked about, when you understand your influence, right? Now you have the power to intentfully and consciously influence. You can no longer say, well, I'm just making music. No, you make an impact now, right? The question is it good or bad impact? And a lot of times you can tell because everybody got families now, would you let your kid listen to your music solely and let that influence their life? And if you wouldn't, then you purposely going out there influencing other people's children with your product, knowing it's not good, but you wouldn't feed that to your family. Because you love your family.
Because I'm being a parent.
Yeah.
So if your child can, if I'm curating your child's entire life, then I'm gonna look at your parenting first before I look at me.
But you still not even just a parent. A parent is an influence.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to take away all accountability from myself, though.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, let's not skip steps.
But we know for a fact that the family dynamic has been broken up a lot.
Absolutely.
So what we saying is saying that if we had a dynamic where we know it was 2-parent households and they was raising their children the right way, then the onus would easily be able to say it's on the parents. But we now have the knowledge of knowing that this is a culture that is not raising children right, so why add to the system?
Okay, look, well, let's use Gucci Mane as an example. He still don't make positive music. But I watched this man go from straight up goon, drug user, alcohol abuser, caught a body, went to prison, came out, sober, clean, thinking clear, lean, stayed that way, married this girl, put her on a pedestal, held her in high regard for the whole world to see. And so far, we haven't heard any stories about any scandal of him getting caught cheating on her. This is no different from what Toby is doing. He got her up on the pedestal. He treated her well. He's never disrespected her publicly. He still makes the same kind of music, but he's helped more Atlanta artists and more artists than probably any other artist damn near in the history of the culture.
That's a fact.
And I think that people is looking at what he's doing and they're seeing it how they want to see it. You know what I mean? They can't find the redeeming qualities in what we do because in their mind it only has to be done in a cookie cutter, bright sort of way. You know what I mean? But I personally feel like that a lot of the super commercial, I'm marketing positivity to you. That shit can be just as gimmicky as the
I don't
obligatory
think you gotta
CB4
market
shit.
positivity though. Like I don't, like
You
I
gotta do
wouldn't
your
listen
part.
to it.
You
You know
gotta
what I'm
do your
saying?
part.
Yeah, I think you can be your real self, but it's the way you go about. You understand me? How you say and what you do that can have a different influence. Like, look at Kanye West can sometimes make a song that's not particularly positive, but he gonna say one positive thing in there, and that's gonna stand out more than the rest of the song. You understand me? And that's kind of like his formula. But instead, you'll have somebody that have a song that's particularly negative and nothing in there is positive. So you're not taking no opportunity to mix none of the medicine in the candy jar. You understand me? And that's what I'm saying is that I'm not saying you switch up your platform. I'm saying that you got the attention. You can throw in a 10% in there. You can throw in a quick little something.
Yeah,
But
absolutely you
but that
can.
still requires you to care.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I mean, I think we kind of saying the same thing. But the point that I'm making about Gucci is just because he doesn't do that,
But
it doesn't mean
he
he's not
does
doing
that
his
too though.
part.
He made a song about stop smoking, talking about smoking the dead ops, and he said that I realized my participation in creating that type of culture. You understand me? Like that, I reposted it on my page because I'm like, this hard, and that goes along with his new development as a man. Because what we seen was his development as a street nigga into a man, right? A family man. And I believe his example of becoming a man, how he treats himself, right? How he eats and how he works out and how he treats his woman is something that he didn't have to do. He decided that that's what he wanted to be seen as. So I think then what it does is ain't nobody gonna play with Gucci, but you know that he has made a change and he's not looking for, you understand me, those same things that he was when he was attracting and he was making that kind of music he did back in the day. You understand me? This music you can tell is more for entertainment, and the other one felt like lifestyle. You understand me? And that's because you see the man and then you see the music. But he's created a clear separation and a difference. And then now he's deciding to say, well, every once in a while, I'm going to throw a clear, good message out there. And I think that's indicative of his own consciousness of knowing the type of karma that comes with just putting out message that influences without feeling like you're not going to get that intent back.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I just feel like he's done a great job at figuring out what his superpower is, and he's using it his way. Like the way that he's applying it is so helpful. It's so helpful to the culture. Like everybody, everybody shouldn't have to do it through the messaging because everybody's not going to be. He may not be as good as him at doing it. That may
Right.
not be Gucci's strong suit. To me, I overlook the music because I don't have to listen to the music. And I see the good in the brother. I don't have any desire to like work with him or nothing like that. I admire that. I like the fact that it's something totally different from what I do. Like the kind of artist that he signed, I don't even really listen to like that. Like it's a whole bunch of negative music that comes along with that, but it's so much opportunity being given, and it's so many selfless acts of kindness that's just disguised in what we perceive as negativity, And I think the reason why I keep touching on that is just maybe I'm questioning the way that we perceive things a little bit. I'm questioning perspective, like it's all perspective. How much needs to change in the realm of art, and then how much needs to change in terms of the perspective of the listener or the person that's being vocal about what's going on in the art. How much do you understand it enough where it would qualify you to hold artists in contempt in that way? Like, do you really even know what you're looking at? Do you even know does C. Dolores Tucker really know what she was doing when she was stomping on Tupac CDs back in the day? Did she really know how important he would end up being? I don't think so. And I don't think that even was a concern of hers. I think it was just, like people from one generation being kind of stuck in the ways in which, they're used to. Old fashioned. Yeah. Boy need to watch his mouth. That boy need to, and it's like, yo, that's like our grandmas and our aunties. Shit, see, Dolores Tucker can probably come slap me in the face and I'll just be like, yes, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm stuck in the ways of how I view the elders. I love the elders. they could do no wrong to me, but it doesn't mean that I don't see the missteps
Yeah.
and the steps that they're taking. It doesn't mean that if some of them were a little bit more open-minded, I wouldn't be able to shed some light as to how to get through to me. There's lots to be learned from the youth, man.
I agree. 100. I think that this generation is the most talented generation for a lot of different reasons, and I think that this is a very man, they powerful but don't know they power and don't control it.
Yeah.
I believe, and that's what I'm saying. It's like when you got people every generation becoming more powerful, they become more dangerous to themselves and others, and oftentimes it's used against us and no one else. Because white people take it as entertainment, and we actually get influenced by it, and that's because the entertainers look like us. So we want to become them, and it's aspirational to be in a position. But now it's like, all right, if you look at some of the top guys that's in music, it's not the gangster rappers.
Of course.
You understand me? So now it says that you ain't even, your music can be reflective of your environment, or it can be aspirational. You understand me? Of what you want to see, or it can be what you see, right? And for me, it's about giving the education on what they can do, because I feel like a lot of times, a lot of cats just don't have any exposure and nobody talking to them like this. You understand me? And without the dialogue being out there, they never even think about it, so it never gets put in the music. I remember talking to a young African artist, and I seen him making art. He was make all his art look like Basquiat, but he was from Africa. And in his place of Africa, they got like a certain aesthetic. And I'm like, why don't you never put none of your own cultural influence from your homeland? This looks like Basquiat. And then he thought about that, and he's like, bro, you're right. I never thought about it like that. Then the next time I seen him make art, it was dope as hell because it looked more original to him, right? And so I feel like it's the same thing with artists today that make music. Oftentimes, nobody just come in there and have a real conversation with them like, bro, you can do this as well, just as better. I mean, just as good, and it's can be as successful. You can be loved. I don't want you to have to, give up, right, where you are in your place in time. I want to give you more options for actually you can do more. You dig? And I feel like those options ain't going to be given by no music studio. They going to look at it as bare numbers, and how you come in the door is often how you got to stay, all right? How you maintain power is the way you keep power. So I want you to get power the right way so you don't become a slave to the way you made that power.
Yeah, well, because you're talking about two different agendas. The agenda of the artist should always be to build your brand.
Yeah.
The agenda of the label is always going to be to make money, and that's it, and to take the least amount of risk as possible. And change is always going to be a risky thing. Whenever you're talking about changing something that's already been proven as successful, labels are always going to always give you pushback on that. Michael Jackson had to fight with Epic Records to bring Quincy on to do Thriller and Off the Wall.
Yeah.
The entire staff was against it. And he went to Quincy and told him about it, and Quincy said, yo, man, we'll be fine, don't worry about it, because they said he was too jazzy. And he went back with his management, and he fought to bring Quincy on. So he brought Quincy on going against their better judgment. And that's gonna cost any artist on that level their positioning with that label. If it happens to fail and the label ends up being right, that's gonna cost that artist their positioning. So Michael Jackson was, for all intents and purposes, gambling by doing that. It just so happened that he went out there and made Thriller and Off the Wall, and it turns out that Epic couldn't have been more wrong than how wrong they were. Did anybody get held accountable? Who knows, and who cares? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's about understanding they have an agenda. That was a risky thing on their behalf, because they're looking at numbers, they're looking at history, what he's done in the history. They have no way of knowing, oh man, they can go make Thriller and Off the Wall. How do they know that? Like, how did we know that we needed to hear a whole album about smoking weed until Dre gave us The Chronic? We didn't know. You know what I mean? So creative vision for how to build a brand is something totally different from profiting off of music. So those marketing meetings are completely different from like the conversations we're having now, or just collaborative meetings creatively in the studio about music. Or if I'm sitting with Kanye and we talking about how he wants to change the world and how he wants to express this and express that, they're just different conversation. And those who understand the different conversation are the ones who usually thrive. If you depend on the label to build you, then you're gonna lose every time because that's never been what they were here to do. You know what I mean? The days of finding, the homeless guy on the street with the big beautiful voice and turning him into a superstar, that shit went out the window with reality TV.
Did it though? Because I feel like those days may be more prominent than ever because I think that the artists have more leverage because if they get, a million streams and 10 million or something on YouTube, they now use that to go try to get a deal. And the labels will build around what they've been built or what they've built because there's now precedence that this can be sold. This is what people like. Okay, well, shit, this is how much money we can give you to build this product.
Right. So, so to my point, you got to go prove that this is what people like first, and then we'll buy into it. So essentially, what we're doing is we're investing into something that you built already. Now we're giving you money to be a part of what you already built.
Right.
There was a point in time where rappers got signed. When I went on my first run of trying to get a record deal and doing meetings with every label in New York, man, I remember being in people's offices rapping with my shirt off.
Yeah.
Like, people were getting signed because of how nice they were.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case now. There's not a lot of people putting their creative vision and their belief in somebody's talent on the line. There's not a lot of that going on. There's more focus on numbers and misleading analytics than ever before. People will sign some shit that they think is garbage, but it's winning.
That's a fact.
So it's more of an investment. It's not.
But in a bad economy, they can take less risk.
Yeah, and it's not as much of a contribution to the culture, which I don't want to start sounding all coachery and shit. You know what I'm saying? But but somebody got to at some point, somebody in those high level executive chairs have to view the decisions that they make and the moves they make as contributions to the culture.
Yeah.
Only reason why I'm saying that is because when something doesn't work, and there's a negative adverse effect that comes from shit that doesn't work, it affects the culture in a way it's differently from how it affects any other groups of people. Like Tekashi 6ix9ine, the phenomenon of Tekashi 6ix9ine affected us, the culture, differently from how it affected the teeny bopper kid who's following him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be aware of that. Not to say that we police and stop shit like that from happening, but we got to be aware of the way we engage these things and how much legs and light that we're willing to. I never had a problem with the kid because I never looked at it like it was a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I never looked at it like it would be something that would just be around for a long period of time because I always judged it based off how I felt about the music. I never really based my opinion on shit about how I felt about him personally because I have no way of knowing how I feel about him personally. I can disagree with his antics, but I disagree with a lot of positivity that's out there that's done a certain way. I disagree with it because sometimes it looks anecdotal. Sometimes it looks like people that are just repeating talking points. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it looks like fake activism in an attempt to build clout. And I don't feel that that's any different from CB4 shit, And I just feel like there's a balance. I feel like that there's bullshit going in both ways. There's music being done by women that the messaging may be a little too risque for me. And then there's really, really, really clean, uptight, positive music and images associated with that obligatory airbrush on graffiti on walls, cameo appearances from older legends in an attempt to make it look more authentic. All of that shit is the same bullshit to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's either way. I think just because it's being presented to you as positive, that people look at it like, no, people should be listening to this instead of that. But it's like, yo,
I don't know, I don't have any opinions towards some person. I'd be like, gotta listen to this person over the other.
That's general consensus.
Yeah.
That's one clubhouse. You one clubhouse room away from that. It's like you go in the room one time and it's just like, yo, we're putting all of the blame on the lyricists, the rappers, like you said, Nicki, Cardi. Who are they influenced by? Mm-hmm. They're the products of Lil Kim and Foxy Brown and Lauryn Hill. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And Lauren had her way. Kim had her way. I think they're all amazing contributors to the culture, and they all go down in history forever. Hall of Fame, whether you liked it or not, whether you were into it or not. I think we understood it a little bit better because it resonated with us at a younger age. And then now, it's hard to look at the derivatives of it and see it the same way. But if you could possibly put yourself in the shoes of a youngin' hearing Nicki for the first time, you can imagine how incredible that must be for somebody,
Yeah, I think hip hop will forever have. I think it's the rap game, and I think the rap game, because I see all things come in cycles. I think that what we're going through right now is a cycle. But I think that hip hop started off with a lot of great foundation as far as what it wanted to reflect. You understand me? And the values that it wanted to contribute to society. And I think that there's going to become a point in time where, the polarization of hip hop happens to where some of those, morals, I don't think it'll ever sound the same again, but some of those morals of hip hop in its early stage be embedded back into it.
Absolutely. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the way that it's progressed. Like Snoop unintentionally taught me that bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. And that's kind of like how I lived my life as a kid.
Yeah, too short.
I didn't realize that the entire time he had his wife with him the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So, so by the time I grew,
I didn't know 50 did do drugs.
Yeah. So by the time I got to a point to have enough wherewithal to be able to see it that way, I was damn near in a position where I was about to lose my wife. I had to go get my wife back. Put shit in its proper perspective, and then now it's only right that a lot of the women now, the way that they express themselves in their music, they're empowering themselves by not needing us. They're empowering themselves by not allowing us to judge them for the things that they do versus the things that we do. They're trying to take away the double standard and empower themselves. Y'all do it, why can't we do it? You know what I'm saying? Fuck these niggas. Make him eat my pussy. Make him pay for this. And you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like it's damn near like a defense mechanism for all of the years that they didn't have us. Think about how many rappers have stood up for black women over the years. How many rappers have spoke highly of black women over the years versus how many rappers have condemned women from here to across the street without even meaning to. But it's just regular rhetoric in hip hop. I had these hoes over. Yeah, you ain't talking about a room full of white girls. At least that's not how we take it. You had these hoes over. I'm thinking you got Keisha, Rhonda. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking that's who you talking about. You know what I mean? And it automatically it evolves into what it is now. So there's no other direction for it to go but back to morals.
Yeah, because I was talking with Bia about soft life, right? That it's a new movement of women not wanting to have to show up as like masculine and tough and hard and all of that. They want to show up in softness and relax and be seen as happy and joyful. Because I feel like even the thing with Megan, she realized that it's because I show up so tough that people care less. You understand me? Because you show up so hard that you're not humanized as a woman, right? So now the image of female rappers is becoming more softer. You understand me? And I think this is a good movement. And if there was ever a movement that men want to champion, I think this is a solid one. The issue, I think that a lot of men don't want to have to be tough again, though. Because a lot of men don't want to be men. Or boys don't want to be men. Like the feeling and the sentiment towards masculinity by the younger generation is that it's basically like toxic. So in order for that balance to re-happen, black men would have to step back into a masculine role so women can step back into a feminine role. You dig? And that's the flipping that has to happen in culture for us to have respect within our own selves and then across the planet.
I agree. But let's not skip steps. A lot of these guys that don't want to step into that role, they don't want to because they don't know how. They didn't have fathers.
Absolutely.
So if we're going to talk about that, then we got to talk about putting the father back in the house.
That's being masculine is becoming a father, right? Because that to me it's like, let's say I don't have children yet, right? But if I equate my masculinity to me being a good father as well, because that's an honorable thing to do. You understand me? To provide, protect. You understand me? Your children, your wife, your family. I'm gonna be in that household. So
Exactly.
therefore, my woman, she can be within her role. I be within my role. We raise the children with both of those dynamics in that household. So now they learning from both of us that code of conduct, that value system.
And my
So
son has no problem stepping into that role. It's just a
exactly.
natural thing for
It's
him.
natural. That's what he's seen. That's what he knows. He don't even know anything else.
Yep.
So even if I see somebody that does, let's say, so if creatives continue want to have whatever expression they want to, it don't have the same effect because I come from a household that allowed me to see that as entertainment, not as aspiration.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that, bro.
But listen, man, I appreciate having you on here, man.
Come on, man. It's an honor, man.
It's
It's an
been a
honor. It's an
powerful,
honor and a privilege to
multidimensional
have
dialogue.
you beautiful brothers in here, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think conversations like this need to happen more often. I mean, I know you have them all the time. You go around just kind of like picking everybody's brain.
Yeah.
And I think it's just necessary, man. I think you're doing your part.
Yes,
You
sir.
know? And it's only but so much all of us can do. But I think if we look at it not like we expecting to be a monolith, like that's never been a thing and that never will be a thing. White people don't even they're not even a monolith. How the fuck are we gonna, you know what I'm saying? So I think if we're able to view it through the lens of everybody doing their part and how valuable that is, that everybody knows what their role is. I think the reason why you're so effective at what you do is because you figured out how to do it your way, you know? And I think that's why it translates so well. And I think that there's other people who, you know, they can afford to be a little bit more loud and boisterous. Maybe we may want to hear a more brash delivery from somebody else. We don't want to hear it from you. You choose your words carefully, and you're able to get the word across without getting a whole bunch of pushback from the power structure. And I think that that's necessary. So I'm glad that you raised the way that you were, and you developed like a trust with me. Like I don't ever think about the possibility of you breaking in any way. You know what I mean? And I just feel like we need more of that in the culture. You know what I mean? We need more fearless black men who are spreading the word, who don't feel like that they need to convey this threatening disposition. But it's a disposition nonetheless. It says don't fuck with me, but it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the truth is threatening enough, man. And anybody that delivers it is already a threat, so you ain't got to put no extra on it.
Right.
You feel me? And just by any ear listening or any mind perceiving it, you going to manufacture change, whether you want to or not. If you got a bag of seeds and you start dropping it on fertile soil, something going to grow. You understand me? And so I feel like that's what this mission is. And like seeing what brothers like Zeke is doing with New Era Detroit, I love what they doing as well. That's why I came out here to highlight, you know, them. I always told them, bro, I post them on the page. I do, because I'm like, we talk about what we want to see, and then when people do it, we never highlight it, so it can never grow.
Because he boots on the ground. He
Yeah,
boots on the ground.
heavy
He
boots.
boots on the ground and fearless. And I love Zeke too. And you know, like he get invited to all of the shits. You know what I'm saying? Like people always want Zeke there. They always want New Era Detroit there. But it's just like anything else. They're gonna wait for it to get hot first, and then they're gonna act like they always supported him. And I think Zeke is smart enough to know that. But you could tell. I mean, because he ain't been getting the support that he should, and you can tell that what he's doing is a passion of his. So he's never gonna stop. He's another one who has developed a trust with me. You know what I mean? Like I don't ever see Zeke stopping. You know what I mean? Because you can tell that he already sees the mission. You know, getting people to support it, that's when you start to learn how much work we really have to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the event is about conflict resolution, and I know, you know, you good at conflict resolution.
It depends on what the conflict depends on the conflict.
Well, man, I hope in the future, man, the whole culture gets better at conflict resolution, because you know that's definitely a masculine intellectual thing. You understand me? Instead of going over the reels all the time in our culture, we can actually have conflict resolution in ways that we settle our issues and problems with each other. And once we learn that, we at a level of maturity where we can't be stopped. I see the growth potential from there.
It feels great, bro.
Yes, sir.
It feels great to be able to do that. It's a way more liberating feeling than crashing out.
100%.
Every time I've ever crashed out, I've never looked at a crash out in retrospect and felt good about it. Not one time.
Yeah.
I've never looked at any time that I've ever aired anything out publicly, personal stuff amongst family or business associates or anything involved in that walk of life. I've always regretted it.
Yeah. There was a saying I seen recently. It was explaining something that's better than charity, something that's better than prayer, and it was reconciliation with someone that you fell out with. You understand me? Reconciliation is one of the highest deeds that you can do as a person, because we leave energy just out there soaking and soaking, and that's never good. But when you can reconcile, that's better than sitting down and praying all day. That's better than meditating. That's better than any of those things that you think are higher. Reconciliation is number one.
Yes, when it involves making amends.
Yeah.
Like when it involves both sides having accountability for the role that they played. Because I've also been in situations where I've apologized to somebody and they didn't hold themselves accountable for anything.
Yeah.
They just accepted my apology.
Yeah,
to
don't do that.
me, that's fulfilling for me, but it shouldn't have been fulfilling for them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you just accepting an apology, what fulfillment are you getting out of that?
Yeah.
You know, if anything, you're still taking the same position that probably helped to get us to where we were.
To a true reconciliation is two people coming together and taking accountability, you understand me, in front of each other for the roles that they played and the reason why there's an issue in the first place, right? Without that, then one person could forgive the other person, but y'all can never reconcile y'all differences. You understand me? Things have to come to a balance the same way if you're doing the books and it's accounting. To reconcile, you have to account for the issues, and then things have to zero out. It can't be, oh, well, you still owe me, you understand me, but I apologize. That's still an issue there. There's still a discrepancy. So that maturity also is just realizing that most of the issues that we have with each other are minor. You understand me? It's just that we put our ego so much into our issues that we feel like we giving up a part of ourselves when we reconcile with other people. And what I've learned from when I was young, I was always taught that learn from the white man, because he is able to do business with each other and not make excuses, right? And that's not something we always know how to do. We don't know how to do business with each other.
We adopt every other philosophy.
We adopt it all, but not the best ones. When you ask, if you take the average black man that wants to be a success in America, he doesn't have a black man in his head when he's mentoring himself as far as who he is aspiring to. It's usually a white guy, and as we talked about, you know, black people being in those positions of authority in the music industry, they copy the same tactics of the white capitalists that took advantage of us. And as Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, you can do capitalism, but it got to be righteous capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like we can make all of the money in the world without taking advantage of each other. You understand me? And I think that that's the highest level of society we can get to as a people, because that's when we have transcended our oppressors.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to our culture, because we're at the lowest point of the socioeconomic scale. So we couldn't possibly think that if we adopt the same philosophies that put our people there, that the things that we do don't directly affect us in every way.
I mean,
It's the story of OJ. It's the story of OJ all over again. The song story of OJ. It's the story of OJ. Still nigga. You know what I mean? And sometimes it takes for you to get out there and think that, you know, like the problems that affect us don't affect you now because you become rich. It takes for you to get into a couple situations where, you know, like that should get put back in perspective really quick.
That's a fact.
And then, you know, my thing is, you'll need us before we need you, buddy. You know what I mean? But you're going to need us again.
Yeah.
If you think that you've elevated beyond us because of capital gain, you know, as long as we have no control of the circulation of money in our community, and we continue to carry ourselves as if there's not a whole lot of money in our community. There's plenty of money in our community. A lot. We just don't control it. It just goes out. You know, so if you're just, one of the lonely rich black people, then you haven't really done anything to affect the bottom line. The wealth gap is still what it's always been.
That's a fact.
We haven't closed it any. So that's what needs to be figured out in order for us to even start asking a lot of the questions that we ask and some of these conversations that we have. Without these bottom lines being affected, then how could we possibly judge what's going on in the communities that have been created by this capitalism, gentrification, like all of these things, redlining, all of these things that push black people into these communities that are purposely underserved. There's plenty of money. We just sent a whole bunch of it to fucking Russia. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, it's just inflation anyway. They can print as much as they want. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's by design. So as long as we know that, then we can start, we can start taking steps and being the change that we want to see as opposed to just yelling about the problem.
Yes, sir. Well, man.
My brother.
Detroit meets Oakland, Bad meets Keys, man. We about to work on this album now.
Bad meets Keys.
Make sure y'all tap in, man. This has been a high-level conversation with the legend, Royce the 5'9".
Peace.
19 Keys, and this is high-level conversation. Tap in with the guys.
Yeah, my experience with the brother Keys, like just his energy, his mind. I mean, I guess you can call it a fan. Like I've been a fan because I've been following the brother for a minute now. So I was looking forward to talking to you anyway. And everything that we spoke about and the way that it went completely lived up to my expectation. I expected him to be his usual super enlightened self. I actually already knew what it was going to be because I follow him like that. I watch, when he interviews people, when he does shit, when I listen, whenever he's speaking at something, he doing a seminar, or he Revolt Summit or whatever he's doing, he easy got a spot in the crowd. He always got the crown on, you know what I'm saying? And he's always pushing a consistent narrative, one day same as the next, you know what I mean? And when people carry themselves that way, we call that solid. Like that's the real version of solid, you know what I mean? And that's where the trust gets developed at. You see a guy and it's like no cracks in his armor. You don't see him all drunk one day and then another day, he calm. Shit like that, that's erratic rapper shit. You know what I'm saying? But somebody who just carries themselves the same way, you know what to expect, you know what you're gonna get, you know what he stands for. He stands planted in the center of his truth. He's arrived at a place. He's not on a journey, he's not chasing something. He knows exactly what it is. He's being extremely patient about it because the things that he's putting out there and what he's trying to teach it to, for the most part, a lot of people who aren't ready to receive that kind of information. That kind of information sometimes can stifle people or have people worried about, they can get anxiety just thinking about actually having to apply some of the things that they're taking in. I seen Farrakhan speaking one time, and he was just talking about the effect that the food is having on the people and the effect that everything that is capitalism is having on our health, our well-being. And he ended it cold. He was like, but you're going to hear everything I say, and you're going to agree with everything I say, and you're going to go right back. You know what I'm saying? And that's the 85% in a nutshell. So it's easy to lose faith in just the word even resonating, so to exhibit that level of patience and that level of discipline and that level of understanding, because it takes a lot of understanding as well. People going to give you pushback on things in a way that's ridiculous, but he understands that comes along with the calling, and he takes it all in stride, and I appreciate that. So I think the conversation that we had was a reflection of that. It was indicative of that, and it was 3+ hours. Like, isn't this supposed to be the generation that has the shortest attention span? People will hyper focus on the things that they're interested in. So only people sitting around and talking about shit for 3 hours are the people that are interested in what they're talking about. I got other stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, I spend 15 hours in a row recording sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't keep my attention longer than 3 hours. I got to go get on the phone. You know, it just depends on the mood that I'm in. But whatever I'm doing, I'm hyper focused on doing what I'm interested in doing. So a conversation like that lasting that long and we not even knowing that the time was flying like that, I think that says everything, you know, so I appreciate it.
Man, I had a powerful experience bringing on Royce da 5'9" for high-level conversation. You know, when I think about, you know, the world of entertainers specifically, everybody can't hold a high-level conversation. You did? And so it's important, number one, there's certain voices out there that's already outspoken, that's already intellectual, that's already high level in what they do, so the collaboration only makes sense. And, you know, what I want to do is, with this platform, a lot of it is provide a space, an intellectual space where entertainers and different people can show different sides of themselves, right? I feel like, you know, early days, there wasn't a platform for rappers to speak and also gain fans from speaking as well and speaking their mind. And so now I feel like there's an opportunity for that vertical to happen, right? We see that with podcasts, but specifically even going even more deeper and intellectual to where a person like, man, I don't want to hear you talk, I want to hear you rap. No, now you get to get the full embodiment of who that person is. And that's another vertical of value that they can utilize as well. And I think Royce da 5'9" is already in representation of that. And I've always said when the thought leaders and the rappers get together, but often the rappers that we tap in with are already thought leaders. You dig? So it's the perfect collaboration. And like I said, man, this was Bad Meat Keys. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, legacy for me, it means a few things. You know, you have your legacy that you leave behind after you kind of move on from music. You know, Jay-Z has already left behind a musical legacy, you know, but he still raps whenever he feels like it. When he finally passes along, which we all do at some point in time, he's going to leave behind a legacy that's going to sum up. And we as humans, we got this thing that when somebody passes, we take that as an opportunity to sum up that person's life and everything about that person that they did that affected us in a either a negative way or a positive way. That's legacy as well. But that's something, you know, that's more of a reflection of who you were as an individual, as well as your musical legacy with more leeway for good shit to be said about you. There's a lot of credit that a lot of us won't get while we're still living musically, you know, but after it's all said and done, you know, whatever it is, it's going to be that, you know what I mean? So me understanding that that's what it is, I'm trying to do as many things as I can to be remembered, not only just as an artist, but as a man, you know, like I want people to be proud to talk about the things that I did, you know what I mean? Like I don't want people summing up things that I did with some negative shit that happened. Oh yeah, so you know, rest in peace, Royce, the guy who fell out with this person and fell out, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to go down in history as that, you know. When people talk about Jordan, they don't talk about all of the shots he missed and all of the games he lost, and he missed plenty and he lost plenty. But they talk about the wins because the wins resonated different, you know. So that's kind of like where I'm at with legacy and how I look at it. And I'm more conscious of it now than I've ever been before. And I can only attribute that to just wisdom. Because the wisdom came from the mistakes.
Peace family, is 19 Keys here, man. I'm here with a hip hop anomaly here at the Heaven Studios, about to have a high level conversation with none other than the legendary Royce the 5'9". Yeah.
This
y'all gotta
high.
Tap in.
This high level of a conversation.
The highest.
The highest of the high.